What's up, everybody? Welcome to Into the Storm podcast. This is Ken Yance, your host, and we are joined today by Bryan Keys, the big man on the roof. Welcome aboard, Bryan.
Thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Man,
I'm
good.
excited, man.
Looking forward to getting into the storm with you, brother.
Let's go. What a perfect way to basically come out and show people I'm here. So let's
Yeah,
get
yeah.
after it.
Just a backstory, man. You were on my social, and
Hmm.
I kind of watching everything, and then we went to RoofCon, and we I've seen you walking around or whatever, and then you sat right next to me during a breakout session, and you know how you just around somebody, and you're like, man, that's somebody. Like, I don't know who that dude is. I don't even know what he does. Like, I knew you was associated with roofing, and I knew you from social, but at the same time, I was like, I don't know, man. I need to meet this dude and kind of get to know him a little bit. So you just kind of put out that, man. Hey, I'm that dude, that kind of aura. You know what I'm saying?
That's funny because that's how I felt about you sitting next to you. I was like, man, look at this dude, this American flag tattoo. Like he must be killing it.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. So I reached out to you through social, man. I just wanted to give you some flowers, brother, and tell you, I was seeing what you was doing, man. And my backstory going back to childhood, man. I was always the minority in wherever area I lived in, and so I always recognize people that's doing something outside the ordinary. And when you get into the industry that you're in, it's a rarity to see brothers out there doing their thing, man. So just wanted to kind of give you your props on that, man. I know the challenges that you guys face. Just going. I got a good friend of mine that's African American as well. I got him into the industry when I first got in, and we would go knock doors together. You know what I'm saying? It's like, because you middle of the day, you go knock doors, man. And like, man, what's this dude doing on my porch? You know what I'm saying? So I knew the challenges that was there, so we went and kind of overcame those things together. I was kind of rarity in a way too, because I was an old dude. You know what I mean? Like, you ain't too many old rookies getting into the game. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
getting
that
on
that
the
act,
roofs, man, about to pass out. So I
that
can feel
actually
you, brother.
that actually shocked me when we first got on the call and we were having that introduction. It was like, oh, how long I've been in the industry? And then you said you got in 2019. I was like, man, I'd swear you had been in this like 10 years plus the way you were moving shingles. So, yeah, that really caught me off guard. And that's kind of what this journey has been. Like, even branding myself in this is that as you just start, you kind of figure out not so much that people don't know what they're doing, but you just don't know where everybody is. And even though people are putting up good content, like even I've noticed from my videos is like as I put up stuff, little people give me nuggets, and it gets just a little bit better and better. And that's just kind of what's been the overall fun of doing this. And like, yeah, I do want this to turn into lead someday, but ultimately it's just a way for me to be me, and I don't have to act in a certain way. Like, yeah, there's a couple pieces to it, but for the most part, I'm being me through everything. So this is that's really good to hear.
Yeah. Well, when I got into the game, man, I didn't know really anything about roofs, man, like zero. And even though the company I joined up with, man, they had a lot of videos you could watch, but actually in the field, tangible, hands-on training
Hmm.
wasn't really there. You know what I'm saying? Like um, and so
And
I kind of winged it and figured it out for myself.
I know you about to go into trading, but because now, like I said, because I have my own platform, I can kind of say what I want. I have to give the flowers to the dudes that have been inspirations in the industry. Because to your point about you say you don't see a lot of brothers in this industry, and it does have its own challenges. There have been people in this industry that have paid away. Like I'll give it up to Deshaun Bryant. Basically, seeing him out of Tampa and everything that he's become. Like,
Deshaun,
wasn't saying something like Bogart, like
yeah,
either way, but like just even seeing him step out of the shell to basically create a course to now be with as an offer market and it's like, okay, the little bit that I can do, at least somebody I can see it working. It's good to see people like me doing things like that. So it's like it's igniting. So I did want to give that piece. So I'll let you go back to training off that.
yeah, man. Hey, Deshaun's a beast, man. I've met with him a few times, and just really inspired by him and his energy, bro. Like sales is. sales is energy, man. And that guy walks into the room and he just brings it with him. So yeah, kudos to him and a lot of other people. But I think that when you first get in,
Like Don Morgan out of Atlanta, he draws a roof gallery. Like he does. That man is knocking on some doors himself.
yeah,
Like as far as like putting on for brothers, like he's doing a hell of a job. I got to give it up to him as well. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off on
nah,
that.
man, that's cool, man. So let's go back a little bit, man. Before you was on Roos, so you from Wisconsin.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Brother
Talk
from
to me
Wisconsin.
about that, man. How was it like living up there?
Man, I mean, didn't know anything different. I mean, the only reason why I'm now kind of down south is for the fact that somebody transferred in, I think like in middle school or something, and they were from Florida, and they were telling me about it, and I was like, man, palm trees? Like it's sunny every day? Because in Wisconsin, you probably get like 3 months of sun, and then it's back to being cold. And I was sick of celebrating grilling out and putting shorts on when it was 50 degrees because it had bounced back from like negative 20 or negative 16, whatever the number was. So when I basically got the chance to basically run down here and always have palm trees and sun, I took it. I didn't care anyway.
That's cool, man. So when did you make that move?
I want to say 2016. Yeah, 2016 after I basically said I was done playing ball.
Okay. Well, let's touch on that, man. You played at Minnesota State,
hmm
had a
hmm
successful career there. What position you play?
I played nose tackle. I
Okay.
was a big boy.
Yeah. So
Bigger.
you was in that odd front then.
I was actually 4'3".
Okay, was you? Okay. So
Yeah, I
you
was
was a
four
one
three.
technique, a Warren Sapp.
I'm in the A gap. We
Yeah,
crush
man.
double teams.
That's what's up, man.
That's
I
what we
love
do.
it. Um, and I tell you what, man, that man, if you got a good guy on center, man, like you, it changed the whole defense, brother. I mean, it just resets the whole deal. I was offense coordinator for years in the high school level. So I played a little ball, watched a lot of film, and had to scheme against. I would much rather go against a good safety or a good linebacker, man. But you get somebody right on the ball, brother. It's gonna be a long night, man.
So we can have a conversation. So when it comes to roofing, what has been the closest thing to football? Because they both have a bit of an adrenaline rush and they both have a chin shake. But like, what is the closest thing you're like, yeah, it gives me the same feeling.
Man, for me, honestly, like I think when I made the correlation between sales and sports, that's when it went crazy for me because I kind of dissected kind of like the conversations of how to close the deal and how the sales process was going. It was kind of like to me, it was like breaking down film on a game. Like, okay, yeah, I got that deal, but why did I get the deal? Like they came up with this objection, but why did they come up with that objection? Then I started thinking about, if I in football, if I want to influence a safety or a linebacker or whatever I want to do to influence the defense, then I have to do something offensively through emotion or personnel package or whatever I might do to control the defense. So then I started thinking, okay, let's be proactive. What can I say on the front end that will dictate and get them going the direction I want to go? And then so for me as a coach, it was the science of the sale. You know what I mean? It wasn't just roofing; it was just sales in general that really motivated me. And I think by having that sales background and our sports background, specifically coaching, I'm always trying to dissect and figure out and scheme and game plan. When I made that connection, brother, I knew like I was hooked because I got too old to play sports. So I needed to have something, you know what I mean, that I
Yep.
could still kind of feel like I'm in the game. You know what I mean?
Yep. I feel that.
How about yourself?
For me, I'd say if I could say the closest thing to being a nose tackle in sales is when I'd say, okay, when you exceed a client's expectations, that, that's my juice right there. When it's like I got an early start in my career in my company. Like I came on just being a personal dude. I was signing deals. It was like right after Hurricane Irma, and was doing well. And I really wanted to focus on, okay, all right, how do I get this to the end? If this is where I get paid, then it's like, all right, where is the focus going to be? I need to know every little piece. I need to be able to communicate this. I need to be able to explain this in a way that a homeowner will understand. Like I was into the details of the job. So the part when it's a homeowner and they're like, hey, I don't think you can do this. Like I was known for overturning customers. So the one I've had people that were like, "Hey, I'm going to give you a 1-star review. There's nothing you can do about it. Like this is unacceptable service." My favorite response to this day was, "Is like, hey, listen, I understand based on the experiences you've had. If you wrote that negative review, I would be right there with you. But since I'm out here, and the reason why I'm here is to make sure that your roof doesn't leak and basically get this to completion. So even after this, and no matter what you put in your review, you can't say that we did not finish your roof or we did not basically come back and finish the job. And that's typically the big thing in Florida is like people ripping off people contractors get ripping off or people saying, hey, I paid them money and they didn't finish my roof. So it's like, all right, if I see every roof to completion and just care that much more, I'm gonna be in another echelon.
I tell you what I found, man, is sad, but roofers in general set the bar so low, like like it's hard not to shine, bro. Like you just come out and do what Ty, the owner of our company that I work for, TC Backer, he always says, do the next right thing. You know what I'm saying? We had a situation just today where we had a homeowner this kind of tight on finances. They're about to sell their home, and like we were already kind of working with them where they would pay because it's a retail deal. They were going to pay part of it up front and then wait till after they close. And the dangerous thing there is, like basically whenever somebody threatens not to pay or whatever, you have a lien on their house. Like you have the ability to put a lien on their home. Well, they're selling the home. So like we're going way out on a limb, to do what we're doing for them already. But then we tear the roof off and man, the decking is like, we got to redeck the whole thing. It's like 4 grand. Right. And so just because it ain't my name on the wall, right? I gotta call up and talk to Ty, and I call him up, and he goes, "Man, we're gonna do the next right thing, brother. Like we just put it on, and if they pay us, they pay us. If they don't, they don't. But we ain't gonna leave them hanging." So we went and got 72 sheets of OSB or plywood. Got out there and did that thing. So it's companies like that. That's why I work where I work, and I'm sure that's why you work where you work because you with one of the good guys. You know what I'm saying? There's just the industry as a whole, people like yourself, and I've been affiliated with a lot of the good guys that's really turning the name around for us. You know what I mean?
And that's where I'm trying to be careful because I can see the thorn in my eye. Like we have all had jobs where we make mistakes, or in this where just certain details is just human nature. Like things happen, and sometimes that happens to be the job at plaster. Sometimes it's just that guy that's having a bad day. He makes the wrong call, and yes, reputation is on the line. But you know what? Everybody's not perfect. Mistakes do happen. This is construction at the end of the day. That's why we all have crazy insurance rates. But the point that I'm trying to get to is just that I don't want to be critical of like the good guys, bad guys anymore. It's just like when we all can't even agree on a standard. Like
Right,
the facts of it is like some of us can get licensed here, some of us don't need a license here, some of us can put a Prius on top of our car, and now we're going on a ladder. Some of us feel a certain way because of how they got in the industry. Oh, you didn't roof with my granddaddy back in '98, so you're not a real roofer. Like the playing field is all over here. Like respectfully, we're the first industry to have two MMA fighters go at each other.
right,
Like we're a different breed. Everybody can get a piece, but just
right,
just knowing who we are. The closest second was what was it? Twitter and Facebook. When
right,
Elon was going when Elon was going to press Zuckerberg.
right. That's
We
right.
actually did it. Like this is the type of industry we're in. So I'm not trying to until we can all agree of like, hey, this is our standard. Then we can go from here and then say like good guys, bad guys because we have a thread.
Right.
Because that's
Yeah, I've
even like
seen.
from a sports stand. Sorry to cut you off, but like even from a sports standpoint, there's a standard. You're not in the ball club if you don't hold this line.
Right, right,
I got cut, and then there's been times I had to look in the mirror. I was like, you know what? They were right,
right.
and that's hard to do too.
Oh yeah, yeah,
That's really hard to do. Be like, you know what? I didn't hold a standard, but it's easy to blame them. Like, oh, they didn't give me my money. Oh, they didn't do this. Like, it's easy to do those things when it's just like accountability. It gets over quicker.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I think when I say good guys, bad guys, it's more about the not really the work that you do as much as it is the unethical things that go
Yeah,
on sometimes. Because it's so easy to become a roofer, right? I mean,
so
you
easy.
go get an account at ABC or whatever, and you go to Home Depot and round up 4 or 5 guys, and now you're a roofer. Saying like, so it's the chuck and the trucks, man, that really kind of make it tough because they don't really have any standards,
Yeah,
and so
it's
it gets a little rough on some of those, but so you're a good company. I mean, obviously you know going out doing your thing.
yeah, and I mean, it's kind of crazy to think that in this industry, you can literally wake up, get in a Prius, put a ladder rack, tell a few people that you're a roofer, waive a deductible, and have insurance company money within 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah.
That sounds wild, right? From that aspect.
Well, I know
Yeah.
Florida. What I hear is Florida's pretty wide open down there, man. Like it's pretty wide open down there.
I mean, they have to test. I mean, they have some level of standard. Like, a good thing that I basically cut my teeth in Florida. So when everybody says, "Hey, if you can roof in Florida, you can roof everywhere," I mean that feels good, especially South Florida. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. I mean, you're with this company now.
hmm
What's some of the stories about the road that it took for you to get to where you're at now?
Um. whew, okay, I gotta be careful around this one. Um. Let's see. How can we? Can you ask me the question again? Make sure I understand.
You figured some stuff out. You found your home, right? And that's all that really matters, I guess.
No, it's not that. It's just like it's back to that whole standard thing.
Yeah.
Me coming in the mesh of things. A lot of self development was there. That was probably like one of those periods where it's just when you experience as a salesperson, you're at your highest, you've been brought to your lowest. Like when you dealt with your first slump, when you dealt with um, basically like kind of how you say it, losing the momentum and trying to build that back. When you have a multiple life changes, like when you get a kid involved, it's just because of the amount of growth I had to do in those 5 years, there's some sensitive spots, but as well as some like good points of like, hey, you know what, that developed me. I like the way I responded to that. Could have did better here. And it's just now I'm at the point where it's just I feel confident in myself that I actually have tape to review that's worth looking at. Where it's like, all right, from these experiences, this is where you can go further. So
Right.
I don't want to make it seem like like everything was bad. It's just a lot of growth,
I'll
a
tell you what
lot
I
of
found.
you
I'll
got
tell
it.
you what I found, Brian, and I think this is just, I'm 53 years old, brother. Like I've done a lot of different things. I felt like I got pretty good at different things, and then for me, a lot of times, once I got good at it, I got bored with it,
hmm
and it's like I just would almost self sabotage myself. You know what I mean? Like, let's blow this shit up. It's like I'm gonna go do something else. You know what I'm saying? That it wasn't anything anybody was doing anything wrong, man. It was just my, growing up. Going back. We're kind of formed as kids, and then we can try to kind of change who we are later on, and we can be intentional and change some things, but our core is still our core, right? And
hmm
I moved around a lot. We were evicted a lot. We moved all around over a few states, man, and it was like you just get used to constant change, and it's almost like to be still for too long is uncomfortable. Like, all right, I've been here
Yeah.
as long as I can be here. I got to go do something else. But I'll tell you, to me, like I don't know. I've also kind of being self aware, man, and this journey I've been on for the last probably about 5 years of really just trying to be intentional and figure out the whys and kind of break down film on myself and my life and decisions I made. But I looked at this industry, I was like, man, why am I good at this? Like when I figured out that I was good, like what made me where I never saw this coming, like I didn't know. And then we basically we were, man, 1099 door knockers. So we didn't have like a big marketing thing. There wasn't billboards, nothing like that. So you just went out there and you ate what you killed. So being in that position at 49 years old, you know what I'm saying, it was like, and I voluntarily did it. I had two other job offers that would have paid me pretty well, but I like the challenge of it. It's something that I didn't think, I remember I was married at the time, and I came home and told my wife that I had taken this job over two other opportunities I had, and she's like, "What? I mean, what are you thinking, bro?" Like, I said, "Man, we'll see." But then when I figured it out, like, okay, I'm killing it right now, and then I'm like, "Well, why?" And I really tied it back to two things. Number one, I think always moving around, always being the new kid, like prepared me to go stand on somebody else's door and be the away team and like knock on their door, and it doesn't matter who comes. I've learned to fit into so many different areas and so many different situations, that it didn't bother me. It didn't matter if it was a 23-year-old Hispanic woman, a 72-year-old white lady, a 42-year-old black lady. Like, it doesn't matter who comes to the door. Like, I've just been, I think I was prepared for handling all those different circumstances from being in so many different circumstances growing up. And then the second piece was the coaching. I mean, I have coaching is like in my blood. I knew when I was 12 I was going to be a coach. So, like, I feel like sales is coaching. Like, it really
Mm,
is. It's like you're trying to, it's a lot of communication, which is coaching. It's like educating. How much time do we spend educating our homeowners, either on what's going on with the roof, the insurance process, the building process, like everything to them. It's like they're at ground zero, and we're trying to, train them and coach them along in this whole situation. And those two things kind of married together. And that's, it's a perfect storm for me and got me, to where I'm at now.
yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, it makes your communication skills like basically any up right away because you only have such a small window being a door knocker. Like, what is it? You get 30 seconds, probably even less, to basically make an impression for somebody to even keep listening to you. And that is an underrated skill in any industry or anything that you're doing.
Well, I think that's what served me well being older, um, because you've got more life experience. You've had to relate to so many more people. You've been in so many different circumstances that whatever they're kind of into, you can kind of relate somehow. You know what I'm saying? And you
Yeah.
just find, my sales training, everybody says be real. And that's like a common thing that you say, but I actually made an acronym out of it. It's relate, educate, ask, and listen.
Mm,
And the relate part is like that's my thing. You know what I mean? Like, I can relate to you. However, just being older, it makes it easier. That's the tough
right.
thing, I think, when you send these 22, 23-year-old guys out door knocking and you just say, all right, good luck, brother. Like, you can give them all the tools as far as like what the pitch is and hey, say this and say that, man. But at some point, you get off script and they just got to go by their personality, and they don't have
Exactly.
enough life experience to connect with certain people. You know what I mean? So I feel like my situation, it just, and you, I mean, you're an outgoing guy, playing ball and all those type things, man. Like, you've been kind of formed for that, even though you didn't see it coming probably. But then when you got
No.
there, it's like, oh man, I was like made for this.
Then that's literally what it was. It's like I was kind of pushing my sales career away because I had no idea it was this fun. Um, I noticed that in college there was actually a sales competition. Basically, we're selling um, tickets to this pulled pork event that they were having, raising money for scholarships. And I wasn't even in the program yet for sports management. I basically had some extra time on campus. I went in class and I hear them doing a pitch because like I really wanted to be in sports management. That was like my goal to get my degree. And when I got into the class, they were having this contest. So I put my hat in the ring and I took some tickets, and lo and behold, I come back and I actually outsold the class by 10 tickets, like per person. So when that happened, and it was like, okay, well, you know what? That's your first sales experience. I didn't look at the sales. I just went to friends and family and said, hey, y'all want some to eat? And they all bought from me. Had I just basically kind of used that momentum from there, or even roofed a couple jobs in Minnesota, and who knows where I'd be now? But that's the dream anyway.
Well, let me ask you this. What that kind of led me to one of the questions I was going to ask you is like, what's the craziest like deal that you did pulled off that you didn't see coming? Like, just a crazy sales story.
Craziest deal. Now, okay. So let me ask this: does it have to go all the way to the end? Because it was one of my craziest deals, but I didn't get to finish it out.
No, man, just whatever you
Okay.
think's an interesting story.
So the craziest deal, and Y'all can say what y'all want. B&I is great. The craziest deal that I ever had was like a really soft lead. Somebody gave me to a mall, and I actually ended up going to the manager of the mall, sitting down with them over coffee. They happened to be going through a rebuild at the time. They were having interior problems. They had leaks. Like everything was confirmed. Like I'm walking to the office, looking up at buckets. Like okay, all right, okay. Well, let's just see how it goes. So I met with the general manager. We had coffee. Told him what I had offered, how I could help, and he actually kind of blew me off. And then I just continued to follow up. And I was like, you know what? I don't know how to exactly follow up, but if I were to do it, this is the way I'm going out. And I actually landed the deal. I actually ended up talking to the assistant general manager who got me in contact with the owner. And then after he kind of explained the process, they flew in. And at the last minute, the general manager originally said no, came to the meeting. And then it was like, they're already ready to sign the contract. Now, I didn't see that deal to fruition, but at the same time, it was just like, that was one of those like, all right, if I got this far, I'm gonna go for it and see what
That's
happens.
cool.
So yeah, my
That's cool.
confidence is through the roof, and I want to repeat that somehow.
Yeah, man. I tell you, probably the craziest one. First of all, I signed the first deal I was on. It was January. It's freezing cold, and the sales manager was kind of young. Not sure he was a big fan of me early on because I think everybody was saying, "Oh, Ken's going to kill it. Ken's going to kill it," just because I was older and just I guess my personality. And I didn't even see it. Like I was like, I don't know what y'all talking about. Like,
You
because here's
really
the thing:
don't.
I kept relating what I thought my success was going to be based on how much I knew about roofs. And the reality is, sales is sales is sales, brother. Like if you can sell anything, you know what I mean, then you can sell roofs. I mean, especially in the storm market, bro. Because let's be honest, like
That's
you're at what can you sell that's like a 90% off? Like you're gonna get a $15,000 roof for $1,000. Like I mean, if you can't sell that, bro, I don't even know. You know what I
like
mean? Like
you're gonna have a hard time. You're gonna have
yeah.
a hard time if you can't
So,
really get behind this.
but I got we finally, I watched the videos and stuff. I watched Becca Switzer and Dale Childress and all, the whole thing, and kind of went through all their stuff. And I was like, the whole time, it's like great stuff, man. But a lot of the conversation they were having in the training, I knew so little about. Like I knew so little, it didn't matter. Like if you don't know that much about football, I mean, you know about swim technique, rib technique. You know what I mean? Like, kind of get them off of you and read. You know what I mean? Like you got all the terminology. You go out there with a bunch of like, 8-year-olds and start saying all that. They're like, what's this dude talking about? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's what I felt like
Yeah.
when I was watching the videos because it wasn't a level I could comprehend at that point. You know what I mean? So I didn't understand. That's why I don't really like pitches. Like, but like it's like I didn't understand why that pitch would work. So like we whiteboard like like being a sales manager type position. I'm running the branch, but I'm also kind of like the acting sales manager. Like we whiteboard objections. Like okay, when they say this, what would have triggered them to say that? You know what I'm saying? Like, I
Hmm.
mean, yourself, like if a safety came down, it's supposed to be cover three, and he rolled over to cover two. Like, what did he see that caused that? Like, can we
Right.
repeat that? Like, what if we wanted to do that? Like, what do we need to do? So it's like understanding the whys. You know what I mean? And that was my big thing. So I didn't understand why what they were saying would work because I had nothing to relate it to. So it didn't really help me. No, I mean, nothing against it. I think it would be better to just go out there and try to just have some conversations and get a little bit of understanding of how those conversations go, and then watch the stuff and say, "Oh, now it makes sense." You know what I'm saying? It's like I used to tell kids. I used to run a rec department, and we had kids going out there putting helmets on for the first time. They're 6 years old, man. Like, and they tell them to get in a 3 point stance. Hell, the helmet weighs more than them. So when they lean forward, like it's all they can do to keep from falling in the face. And they're like, they're yelling at them about, coming off the ball, and they put them immediately in the Oklahoma drill. And it's like, good God, dude, I'm having a hard time getting water into my mouth through this damn face mask. And now you're telling me like Oklahoma, bro, like it's just it. So I feel like you got to kind of gradually build to certain stuff. And even though I was older, it was like, dang, I don't understand anything. So when I just need to get reps, like just put me in
Like
the game
to
and
kind
get
to
me out
kind
there.
of to kind of tie it. What was like? be one specific thing that you didn't like understand? Like you remember, like, man, it's just not clicking.
Well, early on, it was like talking about the insurance game. Like,
Okay.
I mean, I didn't understand why somebody would pay for their roof. Like, I didn't have, dude, I was so
Ah.
bad. Like, and honestly, like when I saw pictures of hail, I didn't understand the fiberglass and all the other stuff. I just saw a little dent. I was like, dude, that's not going to do anything. Like in my mind, like, and I'm not asking any questions. Like, now I would ask more questions, but like at the time, I'm like, I think because everybody thought I was going to be successful, I felt so much pressure to like at least act
Mm.
like I knew. You know what I'm saying? And so I was home watching YouTube videos like crazy. But anyway, getting back to where the rubber met the road was like when this young sales manager decides he's going to finally take me out. I'm like, guys, somebody take me out. Let me just watch y'all do it. And we go down this little cul-de-sac, and we knock a door, nobody's home. Knock another door, nobody's home. Go to the third door. He goes to pull the truck up, and he yells out the window because I'm gonna walk I'm just gonna walk to the next house. He's gonna pull the truck up. He yells out, says, "Hey, I've got a adjuster meeting to go to for a church. I'll be back in about an hour." Well, he had never mentioned anything about an adjuster meeting, right, at a church or
Hmm.
whatever. And I'm out there just, and I kind of felt like he did it just to set me up, right? I mean, I know that's what happened, right? So it's like, okay, cool, but my ego kicks in now. I was like, man, I ain't the one, brother. So I go ahead and knock on the door. Well, I get up to the door, and then it hits me because I'm feeling kind of confident. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Uh, but I get up to
All
the
right.
door, and as I'm knocking on the door, it's like some crazy nerves comes over me, brother. Like I don't even know why. Like I can't explain it because I don't really get nervous in situations. You know what I'm saying? But I literally felt like it was my first varsity game. Like I'm like, and I don't know who's gonna open the door now. But the good thing is he had a
Just
Steelers
a
flag
sec.
in his right there beside his porch. And so when he opened the door, I swear to God, I didn't even look at the dude. I didn't know if it was a man, woman, black, white. It could have been a thing, the Cookie Monster. I wouldn't have known it, brother. I just looked down at this flag and pointed at the flag. And I said, "So you're a Steelers fan, huh?" And then I wouldn't even look at him. I'm just waiting on him to respond. Like, so he goes, "Yeah, man, I'm from Pittsburgh." Bryan, when I say we sat there and talked for 20 minutes, it's 27 degrees out there. Okay. He's holding a coffee cup. He's drinking coffee. We talked for 27 minutes about Pittsburgh and all this other stuff. Finally, this man asked me, he goes, so why are you at my house? And I said, oh man. And then I just blow it off. Like I can care. Like I don't care. I'm just like, yeah, we're out here seeing if insurance pay for people's roofs. So you going to a game this year? Like I just went right back
Right. Right.
into the game, right? And then finally he says, so he leans up out into the cold. And he's looking left and right. And he's so you ain't got a truck or nothing or a ladder? I said, oh man, the dude ran off with it. So, and then he actually interrupted me again, and said, you can borrow my ladder out back. So now
Nice.
I get up on the roof. And bro, when I say I had no clue what I'm looking at, I was scared to death of the roof. Turns out it's a 10-12. Okay. It's 27 degrees, so it's cold. You ain't got no traction. I got Nikes on, and I went up the valley because I didn't know any better. I mean, it was a bad situation. I
You
get
went
up there,
up the
I put
valley.
my arm over the damn ridge, and I'm sitting there looking around at the roof. Nothing specific. I'm just looking at the roof in general.
Right.
I said, "Yep, it looks effed up." So I shimmy back down. Dude, I got no point of reference whatsoever. I come back down, I knock on the door, and he comes to the door and he says, I said, yeah, man, the roof looks messed up. So he just look we sit there looking at each other. Like I don't even know what to say after that. Like I have no clue what to say. And he goes, so what do we do now? I said, well, we're gonna wait on the dude to get back. You got any coffee? So he brings me a cup of coffee. And we stood in his living room. So dude gets back, and I knew in his mind he's thinking this jackleg is still sitting at the same house I left him at, right? I said, when he gets out, I said, man, he wants to sign up. I just don't have any, I don't know how to do it. And it's like he reluctantly got up there to do an inspection, actually found some damage, and we called it in standing right there on the porch. And that led to three
Nice.
more roofs in that neighborhood.
And that was your first deal?
First deal, dude. Like, and
Man.
here's what the takeaway is, bro. The first letter of the acronym of Be Real is relate. All I knew how to do was relate. I couldn't educate him on anything, right? I didn't know any questions to ask him, right?
Hmm.
And I didn't have nothing to listen to him. Like I wasn't asking questions to get information from. The only thing and the most powerful thing in sales, in my mind, is to relate with the customer and create the relationship. because relate is the base word for relationship, and that's the most important thing because everything else you can overcome. I mean, that was proof on my very first job. I overcame every other obstacle, but the guy related to me, and I built a relationship with him, and he signed a deal with me. So anyway,
So when it comes to like when I used to do my pitches, like how my entire process goes, I mean, this is gonna be a question I'm gonna follow up with you. I basically came in and I'm a visual learner, so I have to see you do it. So we can be at the chalkboard. I can write notes down. I'm gonna write something that sounds good, but I'm not gonna remember what it looks like in 2 weeks from then. So it's like when I see you step by step in a process, then it's like okay, I can see myself doing this and this. So like my first day in the industry, like actually door knocking, I was just a canvasser myself. It was a Saturday. I knocked 100 doors that day. 100 doors. And like everybody says now, it's like, oh, that's nothing. But like for somebody that's just getting it, that just basically wants something, have never done it before, it is like, okay, I made it somewhere. So, and I got one inspection that day. And I was looking for damage. I was looking for a crease. I actually found one. I came down, tried to explain the process to the homeowner, and they pretty much just said, "Well, I have a manufacturer warranty, so I'm not. I'll let them deal with it." And then slams the door. You're like, man, I don't care who you are. Your first day in the industry, after you knock 100 doors, and on the last one you get that, you got to come back from that. Matter of fact, most new reps, like, all right, we can say whatever we want because we on this side and everybody is basically made it past their first day, but that'll make a new rep quit.
oh yeah, that's
That,
tough,
that'll
man.
make that'll make a new rep not show up on Monday. Leave your text on red if you ever done recruiting. Yeah,
For sure, for sure. Well, let's backtrack, man. Let's So you married?
I am. I am. I'm married to my lovely wife.
Awesome. You meet her in Wisconsin or Florida?
I actually met her in Minnesota. We met in college.
Okay, good deal, man. Now we were
Yeah.
talking earlier. The coldest I've ever been in my life was Wisconsin, but
Hmm.
you said Minnesota puts it to shame.
Oh, absolutely. Minnesota wins by far. That's probably the one thing they do well is cold. Um, my oof, all right. So this is all right. So I got a story for you. So like my first experience with Minnesota weather was it's like literally we had a game. So like it was like a snow warning. I'm thinking like, oh, okay, we might get a half inch. I'm used to Wisconsin snow. We might get like a half an inch. Like, all right, they'll shut down the school. I kid you not. There was no cars in the street. There was no snow on the street. I wore sandals to my friend's dorm room, stayed there for the night. Woke up, streets was covered with snow. I'm talking about 4 to 5 feet of snow. And this is how I knew I was in a I was in a whole different climate. There was a hill where the dorm was, and somebody came up with two skis. I mean, two snowmobiles. So two snowmobiles on the street, and that's the way they was getting around. I'm like, wait, so everybody has a car and a snowmobile in Minnesota? Just in case for days like this. And they actually even had to reschedule the game. We had to move to a neutral field because the snow was so heavy.
Wow,
And
man.
then, as far as the cold, there was one day it got up to negative 60. And I don't know if you've ever been that deep, but it basically skips past cold and it's just all pain. All
Bro,
pain.
I don't even know, bro. Like here, my level, what I said was cold. Now keep in mind, I'm originally from Charleston, South Carolina. That's not quite Florida hot, but it ain't. You know what I mean? Like it's closer to that than it is to anything in Minnesota. So we had 100% humidity all the time. I mean, I mean, you know, it was hot, right? I also lived in Texas for a while, and outside of Houston, so that was hot. You know what I'm saying? I've dealt with heat,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I'm comfortable. Like I'm comfortable with heat. But man, I went to Wisconsin. I worked for Rydell Football Helmets at the time, so I was a
Oh,
state
no.
rep for Rydell, and that's actually the last thing I did before I got into roofing. But
I mean,
we went up there. We had bought another company out, a clothing company, and so we went up there, and so we were in Madison, Wisconsin, and my dude, we were going to Uber over to a cigar shop, and it was 1.2 miles away. And there's
Hmm.
like six of us going to jump in this thing and get over there. Well, I missed the dang ride, so I was like, well, I'm not going to pay for Uber by myself. I'll just walk us a mile. Like I've been cooped up in this thing all day anyway for 2 days. I was like, man, it won't be that bad. Well, it was negative damn like 17 degrees, and the wind was blowing like 25 miles an hour. And I dressed, I dressed for a little cold. I didn't know what I was going to get into, and I also didn't know I was going to be outside for that long. And I got about halfway, and I was just like picturing like they're gonna find me frozen on the side of the road, like I'm about to tap out, bro. Like that was brutal. So I don't know how you did that, man. But
That's I tell you now, that's soft compared to Minnesota. They literally said when it was -60, they told they told the campus was like, hey, we're not shutting down school, but if your professors want to, then they just don't get paid. So we still had classes. So we still had to walk outside on -60.
let me ask you this: you said you got a little one, man. What you got? A little boy, little girl?
I got a little boy, my twin. My,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh man, yes.
Now, now how old is he?
He is just turned 3. Just
Okay.
turned. That's
So let me
my.
ask you this, man. Like we didn't talk on the front end as much, but you got your mom and dad.
Mm,
You said they're still alive.
yep.
You're blessed for that, brother.
And I
Um,
have, yep, I have a sister
you
as
got a
well.
sibling, brother,
Yep, my
sister?
sister.
Okay, got a sister. Where are all them at?
They're all back in Wisconsin.
Okay. They're freezing it out, man, just riding.
Yeah, they
You
don't
ain't got
want
them
to. I mean,
talking coming down.
no, I mean I've tried. They enjoy coming down. I get it. They just want a little bit. They don't want to get drunk off of it. They just want to heat up a little bit and go back. So it's like okay.
I got you. Good deal. Well, let me ask you this, man. Like, who was the biggest growing up? If you play college ball, I'm sure you grew up playing sports, right? You look pretty athletic. Did you play sports other than football?
Oh yeah, I played basketball, football, was shot put. Let's see. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah.
Um, we can go back to
So who,
elementary
who
though.
would you say was your biggest influence coming up?
Biggest influence coming up probably would be Kevin Garnett.
Okay.
Kevin Garnett, hands down. And then when I got into college, like playing football, Ray Lewis. So
Man,
between the two of them, like those are.
Kevin Garnett's from here. He's from Malden, South Carolina. So Malden's like the neighboring town. Like my feet could be in Malden in 11 minutes from my front door, right? Um,
Oh,
so they had an old mall. It was on its last leg, and my youngest son was like 2, and my older son was 6, and we went to that mall to go to the shoe store. I didn't want to go to the big mall because it'd be too busy. So I said, I'm gonna go to this old little Greenville mall and before it shut down. And I go in there, and you know how they got those little short benches, like the little short, like real short benches
hmm.
to put shoes on. Well, they got a big one, where you can sit all the way around it. Like people sit on both sides of it. So it's a really so as I'm walking in, I can see a shoe, like a row of shoes, like the shoe rack is up there, and I can see a dude. I was like, man, that guy's kind of short. And I get around, and he's sitting down, and he's still like up to my dang nose, right? So I'm 5'11", so he's up to probably up to my shoulders, and I was like, dang, that guy's tall, bro. And so he stands up. It's Kevin Garnett. He's in there with like 3 of his dudes and through his boys, and they were buying like all their Timberlands. They had like 20 Tims
Yeah,
they
that
were
was
buying.
the shoe. Yeah, that was
And
the
so,
shoe back then.
so everybody in the store, because there ain't hardly nobody, it's during the day, it's during the school day. Because my older son was in school, and I had my little boy and my wife at the time. We were over there, and she's like, she don't know who it is. She was just like, let's just get these shoes and get out of here. And so I said, no, it's Kevin Garnett. And she had no clue. So I asked the guy that worked there. I said, "Man, do y'all got any Kevin Garnett posters? I'm gonna see if he'll sign it for him." So the only one they had left was in the actual thing. So they pulled it out, and I asked him. I said, "Hey, Kevin, you mind signing this for my boy?" So he wrote to Ken and Cody, "Stay cool." And so that was a pretty cool moment, man. And then I walked
Man,
out and I realized he had a giant yellow Hummer out there. That was the original Hummers, back then.
yeah,
And
when it
I was like,
first came
well,
out.
there goes this. I knew like you'd be able to identify his car because there wasn't that many people in the mall. I said,
Right.
well, that must be his. But he was
Man,
super cool, man, real interactive, and just really, for somebody that was that young. I think people can grow one or two ways when they're that famous because they can either um, kind of get tired of it and be aggravated by it, or really being humble and give back and everything, and like and be cool about it. And he was pretty cool about it.
Yeah, I love him just from his tenacity. Like he's one. He is probably when it comes to sports one of the fiercest competitors of our generation. Like you can say what you want about points, all this and everything, but like the attitude and the respect he commands, nobody else like him. That's why I love him because he knows how to get underneath players' skin and he talks that talk to him. Like it stings. If you've been in this situation with somebody in your ear like that, it stings. So you
Yeah,
know it works.
yeah, for sure. Well, let me ask you this, man. Being a dad, um, how did being a father change you, man? What did it put in perspective for you?
Oh, it made me level up because now it was a matter of like you always feel like people are watching you, but it's like, all right. You get a slip up here, no big deal. That person doesn't care. They got their own thing going on, but he's all I'm looking at now. So, or he's all that he's looking at right now. So everything that I do has to be another level up because I want him to not just like it's one thing to just say it, but then I have to do it. So since he's been born, it's just been a matter of pushing me, like pretty much stuff I'm doing now. Is like, hey, this is how dad gets it. I've seen my dad get it. Dad was a hustler. Dad went out and made it work. So he gives me that level of accountability because that's what I want instilled in him. Like be self sufficient, figure it out, be able to work within a team, and so on and so forth.
So, being that intentional about being a father, um, it sounds like you had a good dad.
Had amazing dad. Our like superhero doesn't do it justice. Confidant doesn't do it justice. Um, and I guess it's really just great, especially at this age, because like I can really appreciate him. And now even going through my own trials of like, all right, I know why you did that. Like, okay, all right, cool. And even to be in a space of like, all right, yeah, I should forgive him. Well, you just having that grace now. So it's it's a great time period in my life as far as my relationships with my son, my wife, my dad, my mom, my sister. Blessing, like flat out, just full on blessing, man.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I lost my father. We were really starting to get. We had just recently gotten pretty close there the last couple of years. He lived with me 2 out of the last 3 years that he was alive, and and he had a stroke, and it took him. And then that was, I had a rough 10 months. Like right when I got into the roofing industry, I lost my birth mother, who I didn't really have a
Mm,
relationship with from before I was 2 years old. I remember meeting her one time when I was like 13, 12 or 13. And then I didn't see her again until I was probably 17 or 18. We just didn't have a relationship. And we were just starting to get a little bit of traction. And she passed away 3 months later. 33-year marriage ended. And then 4 or 5 months later, my father passed away. So it was a tumultuous. It was like 10 months in there, man. That was pretty rough. And I think the big thing is what I realized, and I never, we had a rough childhood, and my parents made some mistakes. I'm sure they wanted to take those things back, a lot of the things back. But I always felt like we do the best we can at the time that from the knowledge we have and experience that we've had that brought us to that point. You know what I'm saying? And so it's really good when parents figure it out, right? Unfortunately for my boys, I probably didn't figure out a lot of stuff till after they were out of the house. You know what I'm saying? Like
mm.
it's just like being real. You know what I'm saying? My daughter had a little bit better time, and it was crazy. I was telling somebody the other day, as close as I am to my baby girl, and she's tattooed here on my arm, right? That's my baby girl. As much as I love that child, she's the one I spanked the most. I, I didn't even spank my boys. Like they listened to me. They were scared that I would actually probably murder them or something. But I just intimidated them. But I didn't actually spank them. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Hmm.
but I think what I realized was that I truly, when my parents would say, "This hurts me more than it hurts you," like I didn't understand what that meant. You know what I'm saying?
Yo,
Like,
now
but I never spanked her out of anger. I spanked her out of she needs to be disciplined, and there's a difference,
correction.
right? I didn't
Yes.
understand that when I was in my 20s. That's why I didn't put my hands on my boys because it would have been like I would have went overboard. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't know how to gauge that. So I just didn't. You know what I'm saying? Like I just took the video games or something, you know what I mean? But with her, I really just felt like it's what I had to do to parent her. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. And I'm hoping, I'm praying for it that my next child is a girl. That is the team that I want to be on. Like obviously if I have a healthy baby either way, I'll be excited. But I do want to be a girl dad and I keep hearing that relationship is so much different. Like love my son, but he is definitely a mama's boy and I understand relationship, can't even hate on it. I'll catch you at sports and Chuck E. Cheese. I get it. But when it comes to a dad and his daughter, that's like I see the connection with my dad and my sister. I see the connection between my wife and her dad, and it's like, okay, I want to before I get up out of here, like I would love to have that bond
Man,
between
I'll
daddy.
be honest with you, Brian. Like not having your mom around, I wasn't close to my stepmother. Like she had a lot of issues, and it kind of drove us kind of separate ways. Um, I left home at a really young age because my parents, my dad and my stepmom split up, and I decided to stay with her to just make sure to kind of stay back and take care of my brothers, right? Um, and so she got a new boyfriend, so it didn't work out because I wasn't standing for some of the stuff that he was about. So I ended up like homeless, man, like at 16
Mhm.
years old, and just man, it's like as time went on, I think I never spoke bad about her or the situation, whatever. But I think that I realized there was something I was missing, like because I wasn't close to her, I wasn't close to my birth mom. Um, I didn't. I had four younger brothers. I had a half sister on my real mom's side that I didn't grow up with, didn't see her. And then after I left home, my stepmom had another child with that guy, and so I had another, kind of half sister over there. I didn't grow up with them, so I didn't ever have that connection, man. Like, and so then my boys were 18 and 14 when my ex-wife got pregnant. So I thought I was going to go through life and just not have that any kind of a female
Mm.
connection, deep, you know what I mean, like that. And man, when I found out I was having a little girl brother, like I don't listen to country music, but like the only songs I could find that was about daddies and daughters was country music. And I made a little
Hmm.
CD and I literally bought the little speaker things and put on this on her stomach and I would play the music for her and I would actually read to her. Like I was the biggest dork you ever seen in your life, dude. And I would play like butterfly kisses, dude. I would cry like a baby. It's like, dude, I'm a grown man. Like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I was in love with my daughter before I met
And that's what I would love about having daughters because that side of me would come out. Like, granted, like yeah, I have some soft spots for my son, obviously, but just what you said is like the 180 that you just explained for the love that you have your daughter based on the background that you have, like that, because of her, you're able to have that space for her,
her. But
and it opens you up to that. So just hold on to that, man. Like I'm envious of that.
man, it was a blessing. Came out of nowhere because like it was, like I said, my boys were 18 and 14, and I just figured that was I'll have to wait on to see if I get a grandbaby. You know what I mean? A little
Yeah.
granddaughter. But anyway, so let me ask you this, man, from parenting. And it's one thing when you have you talking about being a dad, like okay, I'm a dad, and you kind of going home with this kid for the first time. It's like, okay, well, this is real. Like damn, I'm really responsible for this human right here, right? You know what I'm saying? But what was the moment where you realized, like, maybe not thought maybe I'm in over my head, but like just that moment, that aha moment, like, oh damn, like, damn, I'm carrying all this weight of another living being.
I think it was early because I remember having to talk with my dad just on a stance of like I don't know what type of dad I was going to be. And granted, it's like it sounds crazy because like I understand I come from a good structure. I had good ways, like I had good bones, you would say. But it still doesn't for me it didn't guarantee that I was going to do everything right. And maybe that's a little of me dealing with insecurity, whatever the case may be. But when I was having a conversation with my dad, and it was just like, oh man, I'm really about to become a dad. I'm now married. Like I have my own family. I am my own attachment, and I signed up for that. And my dad just basically the only thing he said was is like, just because you worried like that, you're gonna be a good dad. And for some reason, why that calmed me down to a point of like, all right, I got this. Now, if you ask me about it, like I'm the best dad out here, and I will fight about it. That's how much, like, how hard I go for my son, how much I love him. Was like he comes first.
That's
And yeah,
awesome. That's what it's about, brother. Good stuff, man. Well, for your son, like what? Well, just you personally, like on a personal level, like what's your big, like what do you want for your family? You want to have two, three more kids? You want to have? Obviously, you just said you want to have a daughter. You want to move to Hollywood, become a famous actor. What do you want to do?
what I want for my family right now, and you know what? Here's a thought. We all get caught up in this race of like what we want in the future for our family. And to be honest, if I actually just took a moment, I'm living a dream. Like right now, my kid is safe, my wife is safe, I'm in a safe area. It's just that piece right there is a dream within itself. And I only get so many days that it's going to be like this. So, do I want more for my family? Do I have more goals? Yes. But at a certain point, it really is a bigger house. It is a better car. It isn't, and yes, those create experiences, but just the fact that I'm here, I'm present, I get to see them, I'm having this time with them today, I get to end the day with them. Like as many more of those as I can get, I'll take those. Because I know the sad part is like one day he's gonna be 18, just like me, just leave, probably end up somewhere in Indiana or somewhere out west, living his best life, and I'm gonna miss that time while trying to chase something more.
I'll tell you something that I learned. I think I probably figured it out more with my daughter just because of my age, not because it was my daughter, but it was just because she came along at a different time of my life. And and I was fortunate. One of my good friends had had a daughter um, a few years before me, and I was like super stoked for him. And he went a long time, didn't think he was gonna have a kid at all. And I think he was like 30, 34 when she came along. So didn't think he was going to have a child at all. And then he had a little girl. And I remember he made a comment, and it completely it hit me at that moment that he said it, that I didn't realize what I was missing from being a girl dad until he said this. But he said that is my heart outside of my body walking around.
Absolutely.
And dude, like
Absolutely.
for him to say that, it's like just because he doesn't give a lot of deep things. He's like usually like super sarcastic and just surface, like you don't get into deep stuff. But man, when he said that, I knew how that little girl affected him. And I'd known him, for 17, 18 years before that. And I was like, man, it's like you're saying you're envious, brother. Like if it's intended for you, God's gonna make it happen. And it's gonna happen at the right time. I had my daughter at the right time because I could appreciate things. I had to hear that from him. And also the other thing was I remember him saying something that like I didn't notice it with my boys because I was so busy being young and an idiot and just going 100 miles an hour, right? But with her, I remember him saying that every time she says something and she figures out how to say it better, it's like it depresses him. It's like, and then I paid attention, and my daughter, At one point, the way she said "I love you," she said "I love you,"
Yep.
and I recorded that, and I made that my ringtone. So I would just be sitting in a meeting, and all of a sudden you'd hear her, and it just says it on a loop. I love you, I love you, I love you, and it was like, but unfortunately, like 3 days later, she figured out how to put an L on there, and it was like, I love you. And it's like, I don't think she put the V on there for another 6 months, but it was just that little bit where it was I love you. There's like, God, that's precious. And you never get that version of them back.
Nope.
Like they're just that version for such a short period of time, brother, and just love them where they are in that moment and love the freaking crap out of them, man. And my daughter slept with us till she was 7 years old. I'm not ashamed to say it. Like I didn't want her out of my sight. Like I didn't want her. Like she was my heart.
I mean, real parents can relate because like it is probably like the scariest, most beautiful thing you could ever see. Like the fact of like he fit on my forearm. He was that size on my forearm. I remember looking at his holding his head and being like, "Oh, it's so cute." Now, but he's coming up to my knee. He's coming up to my hip. To now, we measure the chart. To now, he can he can sound it out. He can say emergency. It's just yo, like come on, man,
Record
like
it all,
take
brother.
a break.
Yeah, record it all, man, and then do the door thing, man. Like mark them on the door. I
And
got
it's
that door in that bedroom, and we've been here since '99. So my boys
yes,
have come up. They were 10 and 6, and now they're 35 and 31. And so I can see the point where my youngest son ended up actually passing me. I think he cheated. I'm not sure. I got to think back. I didn't. I don't think I checked his toes good. He might have been up on his toes a little bit, but anyway,
when
yeah.
you
So
made when you made that mark on the door for your boys, do you remember any like? Do you remember like kind of what the specific pressure you were going through at that time?
pertaining to what? What do you mean?
So, I mean, if we're at least from my experience, in the way that like I keep going where I get my drive from, where I'm starting to like build momentum, is there are these moments in life, especially with my sons, like when he was a baby, or I'd say like probably like a month old. There was pressures, there was anxieties, there was things I was thinking about, there was goals I was trying to accomplish, there was I was trying to get to somewhere else where I was trying to be in a better because he's here now. And the thought was is like if we don't make it here by this time, we're not going to be in good shape. And now here he is today at 3 years old. So the reason why I asked that is like, do you remember the pressures that were kind of inflicting you at the time, the things that you wanted to achieve as a man for your family when they were at that first mark? Oh, you went mute. I can't hear you. Your microphone went mute.
Oh, my bad, my bad. I was drinking over here. I don't want to be chewing ice while you were talking. My bad.
Yes.
um, no, yeah, I always felt pressure. I think coming up the way that we came up, me and my brothers, um, there was always a pressure to stay ahead and keep pushing, and like it kind of creates. I think when you come up, the way that we came up, you either like you're super hyper competitive and hyper like want to succeed, like overly like you know what I mean, like really that becomes like a big focus that you lose sleep over,
Hmm.
or you just kind of say, hey man, it's just the way life is. I'm just going to float around and see what the hell happens. Um, and the weird thing about me, Brian, like in full disclosure, brother, like um, I was kind of a mix. Like there was times where I felt like, dude, I'm better than this shit. I'm gonna like kill it. I'm gonna do that. And then there's times where I was like, dude, who do you think you are? Like, bro, just like fall in line, man. Like, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like it was a constant battle. And Ed Millette talks about this, and I've heard him speak on this 2 or 3 times. I don't know if you listen to Ed, but got a great podcast, and he puts out content almost daily. I would highly recommend if you don't listen to him to jump in. He's worth about 800 million, and the guy's got the biggest heart. He's got a bigger heart than his bank account, man. He just really pours into people. But he talks about your internal thermostat that you set, and let's say your thermostat on your house, you set it at 72. You're just comfortable at 72. If it gets to 74, the AC kicks on and brings you back to 72. If it gets
Mm.
down to 68, the heat comes on and brings you back up to 72. But the bottom line is you set a thermostat, internal thermostat in ourselves, in our relationships, in our profession, in all the things that we do. We set a thermostat in our mind of where we think we should be and where this is who we are. We kind of create this identity for ourselves that this is our level. And I know I found myself doing this a lot in relationships, because in 2020, me and my ex separated after 33 years. And so what I found was if I started getting too comfortable, it started going too good. Like, dude, we can't get up to 74. I'm not a
Mm.
74 guy. I'm a 72 guy. So let's try to F this thing up a little bit and bring it back down. And
Mm.
like, I was more comfortable in that chaos, right? And then, but the same thing is like, it's not going to be a 68. Like, we're still going to do stuff and like, we're going to keep it up here because this is where I'm comfortable, right? And I did it professionally. I do it physically. Like I did 75 hard. I was probably in the best shape since I was probably 25, 26 years old, just about 6 months ago. Now come right out of that, and I hurt my back a little bit, and I came up with some damn excuses. My bitch voice took over, and I've not gotten back in there. And literally, when I leave out of here, this is in a bedroom in my house, right? I created a studio. But when I leave out of here and I walk out to go get in one of my cars, I walk through a gym. Like
Mm.
I enclosed a 2 car carport and it's a full blown gym. I have the
Nice.
least excuse of anybody out there. I have no small kids. I have no reason. The problem is I get in a certain level of conditioning, and then that thermostat kicks in, and it says, "Nope, that ain't you, brother." And I stop working out, and I find excuses, and I come back down. Now I'm not going to drop down to 68, but I'm not going to then go up to 75. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So how
And
do
so
you
that's
battle? How do
that's
you battle
really
that?
that concept I've just realized through listening to Ed that's really kind of been my identity in a lot of areas of my life. And so with with those ups and downs that I was talking about before, with being a parent and feeling that pressure, there was times where I felt it, and then I was like times like, man, y'all look good. Hell, I didn't even have this. I didn't even have that. You know what I mean? Like, and then it's like, what y'all whining? Like, why y'all whining? Like, I didn't
Yeah.
have no video
Yeah.
games. You know what I mean? I remember I had one friend that had video games. I could spend the night at his house, and that dude thought I was crazy. I used to play video games till 4 o'clock in the morning, and it wasn't nothing but damn like Pong and maybe I don't even remember what the asteroids. Like that's all we had. Atari 2600. It had a joystick and one button, and I play that Joker till 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm falling asleep. Like, let me get it again. And so I didn't grow up. They had every gaming system there was, and so sometimes it was like I'd almost get pissed off that y'all got too much stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and so I was
Yeah, I
always
found
up and
myself.
down,
Yeah.
man. So
Yeah, I found myself doing that a lot. I was like, why y'all can play? You don't got to do all this. And it's just, and it's like, all right, I ain't got enough. Yeah, I've caught that a lot, a
yeah,
lot. I'd say probably that right there, those situations will actually describe every point in the child's life. That actually probably wrapped up. That was a good answer for the question I asked. Like, all right, what were the pressures going on? And it's more or less that thermostat kicking on and off. Um, kind of, yeah.
and what I took away from that, Ryan, is like is is just identifying like it's all about self-awareness, brother. Like really that's the big thing because once we can step back, I talk about this at work all the time with my team. It's like sometimes you're right there on the ground, you can't see around the tree. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't see the enemy coming over the hill. And at
Hmm.
5,000 feet, hey, I can see that. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm telling you, hey, this is what we got to strategize for this. Then you got somebody like Ty that's at 10, 15,000 feet, and he sees stuff 2 miles away that you don't see coming. You know what I'm saying? Like, um, but sometimes we're so close to it, we don't see it. So it's like being self aware that, hey, man, there's blind spots I have, there's things I don't know. And just, a lot of people have a hard time just owning that. Like, hey, man, like there's stuff in this thing I don't know. Let me go figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, um, and so that's where I kind of started my personal journey was after those 3 things that hit me back in 2020, man. It was like, dude, I got to do something, man, different because that thermostat, I set the thermostat too low, and I could feel myself not living up to the way God made me and the full
Hmm.
potential of what I had. And so, but the thing is, man, if we're not intentional and we don't admit that we don't know things, if we don't admit that we need help, if we don't admit that we need to keep digging, you know what I mean? Like just because you got out of school and a teacher or a professor stopped telling you to read books, then you might as well not even learn how to read. You have no advantage over somebody that doesn't even know how to read if you don't choose to read, if you don't read
Right.
books, if you don't listen to podcasts that serve you. And what we talk about with the Bison Tribe is the five footprints. And it's kind of something that Bedros Koulian talks about. I listen to his podcast a lot. Bedros is a really good um, source to kind of get some motivational stuff and some good personal development nuggets from. But he talks about, I call them footprints. He calls them pillars. But the footprints for the bison is your faith, your family, your fitness, your finance, and your fulfillment.
Oh, I like
So
that.
those five categories, man, we're always trying to level up in those areas. So we just did an exercise this past week at our meeting where I've created a worksheet where we work through and find out where you are 1 to 10. What's your number, right? And so there's 4 questions for each footprint that you ask yourself. And if it's a yes, a no, or a maybe, you get points for a yes, you get points for a no or for a maybe, or sometimes, and then you get a 0 for a no. And basically, like you add those for those five up, and you got 50 as a max. And most people are around a 29 to 30. Like 29 to 31 is the average score, right? And you're answering the questions yourself, like you're identifying it. But what it does is it brings that awareness to the front. Like it brings you to the front to where you identify where your weaknesses are, where your blind spots are, where you're not really fulfilling and filling things in, you know what I'm saying, the right way. And then we have what we call a trek, where we do a personalized 28-day journey where you have action steps to kind of improve in those areas where you need help, right? But I think until you get to the point to where you're seeking that information, you're reading books, you're doing all the personal development stuff, man, you are destined to just keep repeating the same crap. Like it's not going to change. You know what I mean? It's the people that you hang out with, it's the books that you read, it's the content. Dude, I barely listen to music anymore. I used to just music, dude. Now I'll be honest with you. For this podcast, I was listening to Wu Tang. I ain't gonna lie. I was listening to Wu Tang a little bit, um, but for the most part, like I'm listening to pods, I'm listening to books, like I'm doing my whole thing. Like I got 2 books going right now. The Bison Tribe, we voted on the book, and our book of the month right now is "Can't Hurt Me" by David Goggins.
Mm-hmm.
But then personally, I'm listening to Your Next Five Moves or whatever from Patrick Bet David. Um, so yeah, I'm always kind of pouring in. So to that point, let's talk about you and what you do. So what do you do for personal development? I know you're a Christian guy, right? So obviously that's our home base, right? I think that's
Yeah, I
where
mean,
you stay grounded.
yeah, and like when it comes to Christians, like for me, it's like right now I'm in a season where I'm basically trying to get more into the faith, like be more out loud about it. Like I'd identified as a Christian for years, but I couldn't say that like I was living a Christian lifestyle, whatever that may mean. But at this point, I'm actually in a phase where all my self development or majority of the self development I did was last year and probably for the past 2 years before that. This year is more or less of like, okay, you know what? I tried that path. Now it's like, all right, let's get a little bit more fast into what God says. And this is just kind of personal choice. This ain't even me campaigning. This is just more or less of like, all right, this is who you say you are. At least do the research. At least I owe it to myself to say, you know what? I attempted it. I put myself in there. Did I give it the real 100% try? Because a lot of times it's like I, I mean, I'll say a lot of people do it is we spin a lot of the narratives that we hear from man or even from people, and we just kind of accept that as is. So it's just like, oh well, this isn't true, so on and so forth. I'm at the point now, it's like I'm reading stories in the Bible. It's like, you know what, that looks real familiar. Or like, oh, they went through that too. Versus where it stopped being new information. It's like, oh, okay, well, oh, that's a cool story. Or, oh, I get what you're saying about it. Somebody's not explaining it to me more. It's literally me experiencing it for the first time. So a lot of my self development this year is Bible related, Bible focused. And, and that's kind of just a process of choices I'm going through right now.
Man, that's good stuff, man. I do think that a lot of times I got some friends that like they identify as Christians and always have, but I can tell that they've done their own work. Like, you know what I mean? Like they've went off on their own and studied
Mhm.
the word and kind of got into it. And they have some questions that they probably, didn't really get answered. And so there's like, they're still on this journey of like trying to fill in the gaps. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I feel like it, we have to have a full comprehension of it. You can't just blindly just follow and not know, like, you know what I mean? But the Bible, I feel like everything is there. You just got to do the work. And so,
And it's everybody has their own path. Like for me, just even getting to this point of like saying that I'm finally serious. Like my best friend, I grew up with him. He went to church every Sunday. He's a dude that he ordained my wedding. Like he has been basically like I'll say it, my hotline to God. Like when I really needed something like that, that was my God. So just as tight as we were over the years and then how we had two paths that drifted completely away from each other. And now for me, it's like, all right, I'm comfortable coming back. I'm coming in my own time. So I'm even trying to be careful when you say, oh, I know you're Christian based guy. It's like, all right, but it's not a brand thing for me.
yeah,
This ain't about y'all. This is personal.
right,
If my actions lead you to now ask questions and go that direction, sure, we can have a conversation. But right now, I'm as flawed as they come, and this
right,
really basically got on my heart because like one of my friends I was talking to, he was going through a situation at the time, and he was explaining. He was basically explaining one of the people that he was having an issue with. I'm trying to keep be anonymous because it's his business, but he basically said, "Oh, and then they say they go to church every Sunday, but they cuss." And then he looks at me and goes, "You know how Christians are." And I was like, "Damn. So what do you think of me?" And that really made me think about, like, okay, what am I doing if that's not what I'm portraying, but that's how I feel? Okay, so my actions aren't matching, and that goes back to like what my son does. It's like these actions just have to change. So if I continually act and eventually like get to a point where I'm seen as in this little light, it's not for y'all. It's I'm gonna fail a lot more times. You gonna
right,
catch me. Whatever. I'm human at the end of the day, but at the same time, it's not about y'all. It's about my relationship,
right.
and I'm being
Well,
protective of that for that
right.
reason.
Well, and I think that was my big. I don't speak on my faith as much as I see a lot of other people do. I think that what I've seen, and you're seeing that, I think to some degree you're speaking on that now, is that it comes with judgment because you're not living by the to the T of what it says we should be. And then that creates more for me. I don't want to be a stumbling block for you because I speak about my faith and then you judge me against what my beliefs are because I don't walk that line as tightly as maybe Jesus did, right? So I can't live to that. Like I can't live to that level. You know what I'm saying? But then some people use that as a like, see, that's a Christian for you. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like, dude, that's why I kind of stay back the same as you're speaking on. Like I'm not the guy to like to the measuring stick. You know what I'm saying? Is that what you're saying?
My thing specifically on that is if you just even read or even try to understand the base, and this is kind of the problem with what's with like arguments in society today is that everybody just wants to be right. It's their way. It's not actually hearing the other side of it. So it's like if you were to sit down with a Christian and like I get it. Some of us are overzealous. We're very happy. Like, yes, they can be annoying. Get it all day. But it's like when you talk to somebody that's actually going through that battle, when they actually wrestle a guy, when they're actually having a conviction that's cutting through, it's a difficult time. So it's even on the stance of it's like if you were to really listen to the Christian faith, or if you were just kind of even open to it, the man already came back and said like, I know y'all gonna mess up, so you know I'm gonna pay it in the future because y'all can't do what I did. Like he literally took all the excuse out for the fact that he came back from the dead, beat sin, beat death, something that we can't do. So it's just like And then another piece that like really gave me some clarity this year was is like God will still bless you even if you're like ignorant. As long as you're trying to be obedient and you don't even know why, He can work with that. So it's like, all right, like you see those memes saying it's like God factored in your stupidity. Because if we're admitting it, we made some dumb moves.
Right.
We've all made some dumb moves.
Right.
So it's just like there's so many fail switches of like, I know you're gonna suck. I know you're not gonna be perfect. Life is gonna get harder, but you know what? This is the right way, and here's why. Because I'm gonna like all of these supporting things. Like once you actually start to get into it, there's
Right.
ways of like for you to just feel calm and accepted. But
Right.
when you go to church and you grow up and it's the judgmental, oh, you're wearing what to church? Oh, you're doing this. Oh, you hang out with so and so. When it becomes that and that's all you know, I get it. It's hard
Right.
to come back from that.
Well, the thing is, I think that well, there's all kind of stuff. Like the bottom line that comes down to this: the problem with church is that it's people in the church, and the people are the flawed ones. That you know what I mean? Like, and so that's what I found. Like, I've been in some good situations in churches. I've been in some that kind of was good and it kind of turned bad. But it was never the word. It was never the Bible. It was never what the foundation of what the church was for. It was the people in the church that was looking at things in a selfish manner or whatever it might be. I had one church, man, that was just like I went there for 6, 7 years, and it just the older congregation wasn't having this new music. Like they just like they were saying the same exact words, but it just had guitar with it or some drums with it. And now they was like, oh no, like you gotta have like you can't have guitar and drums. And it was like they spent more time talking about that than the great sermon that was just delivered. I was like, dude, what are we doing, man? Let's get like keep the main thing the main thing. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I get it, man. But outside of outside of that, what other personal development have you been a part of? Podcasts, books, whatever you could recommend that you've gotten some value from.
My favorite, I'll say, my favorite book. So many come to mind. Okay, so 48 Laws of Power is a great book.
Okay.
And then The 50th Law of Power by 50 Cent, that's a great book. And then probably my favorite podcast that I go back and forth with just that I just really enjoy is Market Mondays on Earn Your Leisure. Is a financial literacy podcast. Is basically it's I love it because it breaks stock talk down or stocks, bonds, whatever the case, for just anything financial literacy into the sports or into the hip hop. Or I just love it because like one of my favorite explanations is how they explain the index fund. Is think of it as the all star team of America. If you could have the best players on your team and put your money in that and get invested, they do well, and then you track it, and it's like, oh, okay, they are doing it. I can get behind that. Like how we were talking about a 4-3 earlier versus a 3-4, and if a safety rolls over from a cover three to cover two, we get that, and then they've just found a good way, and that's why I keep coming back to that. So that's the podcast I listen to. Really, I actually got a list of books.
Going back to your book, so going back to the book, what's some key things that you took away from that book? Because you can read a whole book and don't remember the whole book, but there's a two or three things that just stick with you.
The one, never outshine the master. That was in the 48th Law of Power. That was probably like one that sticks out to me the most, just because of some past experience, and then for the fact it is a level of respect, in my opinion. Like there's if you are an impressive person, there's a time and place for it. You don't have to be impressive all the time. Be respectful to people that have the venue, people that do invite you, people that bring you around because you never know what they might be setting you up for. So it's just been that book specifically. I'm trying to think. 50th Law of Power. That's book specifically just helped me from a mindset of like even having big man on the roof of like, hey, how to keep attention on yourself. Like one thing from the 50th Law of Power, 50 Cent was talking about when him and Oprah were actually feuding. And one of the line that caught Oprah's attention was like, if we can't be friends, can we at least be enemies? And that's because 50 Cent understood the value of attention that if I am even mentioned with Oprah, I'm going to sell. And because of their business savvy behind closed doors, they actually develop a relationship.
That's good stuff, man.
Yeah, and I really like looking at business deals. Love looking at business deals from a point of like who got what percentage or how it worked out or how where the advantage or disadvantage was for business. Like, did you know like when Jay Z bought the Brooklyn Nets for the longest, like the way they marketed that, you would have thought he was 100% owner of the team, right? He owned 1%
Yeah,
of the entire thing that and made a killing.
yeah. Well, that's
I,
like Patrick Bet David is one of the top podcasters out there. He's worth hundreds of millions of dollars himself, and he was an Iranian immigrant. He's
yeah.
got a crazy cool story, but um, that's the book, one of the books I'm into now. But he's a 1% owner of the Yankees.
Oh
But
yeah,
people,
he did. Yeah, I remember
yeah,
seeing
people
that.
speak about him like he's the owner of the Yankees, like the owner,
Yeah.
like he's 1%, bro. Like, oh, so that's
That's-
crazy how that stuff gets out there, man. So let me ask you this: what I mean, what's the next big thing for you, man? Like from a professional. I know we talked about professional a little bit before. I want to jump back in that because it's something I forgot to kind of close out. I know you got the big man on the roof. Talk to me a little bit about that. What's going on with that?
Yeah, so big man on the roof. Basically, it's just me. What I would look like in the roof industry if I was watching myself. This is like a re-education. I've been in the roof industry since 2017, and I can admit at some points it's like I wasn't taught the right way. So now it's a matter of me relearning um, things that I could be better at, and like working with credible sources. So like people such as yourself, it's about hey, don't necessarily look at me as the expert. Look who I network with. This is how you know your project's going to get taken care of. Because at the end of the day, being a contractor is like you do outsource some of the work. So it's just like they want to know it's a team factor that goes into it. If I come in the door saying I'm going to get your roof done, so on and so forth, and I'm not even the one swinging the hammer, it's like I got to sell the value of the hammer. Like, hey, my team does the hammering better than anybody in the state, county, city because this is why we do it in the system. So with big man and roof is like you want to be associated with success. You want to be associated with a standard. You know what you're going to get throughout the process because this is where you got to be. So that's kind of why I started Big Man on the Roof, just to have more control on that, to invite people in. I'm very collaborative. Yeah, just basically trying to change it the way sales is done a bit.
Good stuff. Now you just launched that, didn't you? Didn't that just come about?
Yeah, I got the idea kind of playing. I got the idea playing around with Chat GPT because I knew I wanted to do something different. Like you know the song that you originally called me about the big boy on the roof.
Yeah.
So I heard that 2 years ago, and I was thinking like, man, that would be a great that would be like a great image for somebody if they did it. So finally, 2 years later, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna pull the trigger on it. Made the logo and just been off to the races then.
You
And
ain't
I
grilling
really
on the roof, are you? Because he in that little video, he was grilling on the roof.
no, I'm not grilling on the roof. Not yet, though. No, but I'm not grilling on the roof
Yeah.
because I have Florida
He
building code
was
all over me.
good. I hired a good friend of mine. He was in this game for a little bit, but he's so scared of heights, bro. Like he was like, I'm gonna go do something else. But and he's a big boy. He's like 6'4", 6'5", about 275, 280. And that's after he lost some weight. He was running around 310. And man, I went up on the roof with him a few times. I brought him to my house. My house is only like an 8, right? It's 812. And so I said, let's get over there and practice, bro. He was up there hugging on that chimney, man. Like I thought, the only way I was gonna get him down off the roof was go down the damn chimney like Santa Claus. I said, I don't know how we can get him back over to this ladder. But yeah, it wasn't so bad. We had a woman at a company I worked at that she went through training. She was killing it, man. It was like she's gonna absolutely destroy it, bro. She went out there, got on the roof. They had to call the fire department to come get that lady off the roof. Man. She
Wow.
wasn't coming, bro. Like she wasn't coming. So unfortunately, that's kind of part of the deal, man. That's where I said this, man. I wasn't happy about. I got a picture of me. on that roof when I was that first roof I was on, and I turned my did around turned around did a selfie, and you can see my jaws clenched. I didn't have my beard in, my jaws was clenched, and you couldn't tell if it's because I was cold or I was scared to death. It was really both. And
Yeah, it does have to be both.
man, it was both. But let me ask you this, man: what would you say has been the biggest challenge? I mean, I know heights is a thing, but like, what's been your biggest challenge being in this industry?
The biggest challenge, the biggest challenge in the industry has been for me is managing the commissions, having the money come in, um, kind of understanding the pipeline of flow, and some of that is just because it just didn't have like clear process, clear pathways. But I'd say if there was something that we all struggle with, dealing with that first slump, because you can get in your head real quick if you ever gonna come out of it. That oh my goodness, the first time you go in a sales slump after a hot streak, and you just don't know why you're missing, and then you just keep trying different things and you just don't hit, and eventually you just come out. Man, that is probably the biggest challenge because that's killed some careers as well, or made some people switch because they just feel like they didn't have it anymore. But being able to keep after it, and that's kind of the name of the game in any hustle is just not quitting. Just oh well, stuff didn't work out. Keep pushing. You get another shot.
Did you ever get a chance to meet Ben Menchaca?
I did not. I did not.
Did you see him on pods and doing his thing out there at all? Anything about
Yeah,
him?
sadly, it was towards the time that he passed. Like I was really starting to see stuff on him.
Ben had a saying that I regurgitate this pretty rarely, and what he said was, "Fall in love with the process, not the results." And he ended almost every interaction with that when he was training teams, when he was speaking from a stage or on a podcast or whatever. He just that was his mantra, man. It's like fall in love with the process, not the results, because the results are going to change, and the process is what gets you there. Now, me, before I'd even heard him speak, I have four principles I talk about in my sales training, and one of them is it's about the journey, not the destination. So same principle, just worded differently, right? And I think that's why I was successful because whether I made money or not, it didn't matter to me because I knew I enjoyed talking to people. I enjoyed the
Hmm.
sport of that door opening and me having no clue if they're going to cuss me out or offer me cookies. I don't know what's going to happen. And to me, like I played organized basketball, I played school ball and all that stuff, AAU, but I got more excitement when I went to a pickup game out in the street in the neighboring town that I didn't know most of the people over there. Like, I really think they built that movie White Man Can't Jump based off of me and a friend of mine named Ackmer, because I would roll in white boy. They're like, man, who's this kid? And I would talk as every bit as much trash as Billy Hole did. Like I talk all the trash, but I enjoyed the challenge of not knowing. Like me and you jumped on the court, dude. I don't know if you got a left hand or right hand, if you got a jumper, if you primarily like go to the hole, you know what I mean? Are you going to be up on me? You know what I mean? Like, are you going to kind of play off and give me the jumper? Like, you don't know, and you're trying to figure that out on the fly, right? And I enjoyed that part more than watching game film and knowing this guy is predominantly gonna run to his right. He's not gonna finish at the basket. He's gonna try to pull up or he's gonna try to dish. Like he's not a finisher. He just fakes the penetration and kicks out. Like you can study all that film, but then it's like it was almost boring. Like, okay, I know you ain't gonna do this. I know you ain't gonna do that. Like, but I like the and so I think knowing that that's the way I was made, that's what made me good on the door. Like I would rather knock a door, cold call, knock a door in a neighborhood than go to a lead where they say, okay, they got a leak or they want to do whatever, and I just go over there. Like that's just monotonous. Like, okay, dude, whatever, man. Like because it's never about the money. It's not about the destination. It's about the
Hmm.
journey. For me, it's more fun for me to have to play this game. Like where first of all you want to shoot me and arrest me, call the police on me because you got no soliciting sign. Then we're gonna get past that. Then we're gonna get past that. Then we're gonna get past that. Like it's like I'm the 5'11" white kid show up. Okay, you 6'3" brother. You got all your people out there to know how to play. Y'all been running. Y'all been holding the court for the last 3 hours, and now I roll in with a couple of my guys, and like I enjoy that challenge. Like that's what door knocking is to me, and that's why I fell in love with it, man. So for me, it was always about the journey, man, not the destination. Because I would tell people this: you could if you didn't know anything about football, or well, let's use a basketball analogy because we're already talking about basketball. You
Right.
didn't know nothing about basketball, and you could turn the game on back in the day, and you didn't know who Michael Jordan was or Kobe, right? And you watch it, and Joker might go 0 for 4, right? Somebody might have ripped him, like went down, got it dunked. That was rare, but I'm just saying, like that could have happened. And then in that frame of time, right, a 4.5, 5 minute period, if you didn't know the total scope of work, you would say, "Man, that guy sucks, dude," because you have no idea of the full body of work, right? So I think in sales we can do the same thing because in sales, the reality is, yeah, he went 0 for 4, 0 for 5 in that stretch, but in the fourth quarter, he dropped 18, and he was 4 for 4 on threes and 6 for 6 on free throws in the second half. Like you don't see the whole body, right? And in sales, we do the same thing. We can take a snippet of time, like you said in that lull, and you say, "Damn, man, I'm sucking." No, you're sucking. That's not sucking, dude. Like if I told you right now that you end up throwing the football in the Super Bowl and you're 20, 27 for 40, right? For 380, 4 touchdowns and a pick, right? At some point, there was, what I say, 27 for 30. So there's 12, 13 incompletions,
Hmm.
right? Well, what if those clump together in a certain, like on one or two series, right? Then if you had the mindset, you would look at that little period and think, "Oh shit, dude, like we're suck, man. Let's just run the ball, coach. Don't call another passing play." Like, but the great ones, and even the not so great, hell, some of them don't care. I think some guys throw 6 interceptions, it don't phase them at all. They just go drink Gatorade and come back like they don't care. But my point is, the great ones don't let that linger. Like they just know. I heard a door to door conference when I first got into the game. Um, a guy got up there and says, "Look, man, if you know you're going to close 1 out of 10 deals, 1 out of 10 conversations that you have with another human being is going to lead to money. Okay, if 1 out of 10 you're going to close, then don't be mad at the 9 no's. Be grateful because
Hmm.
every one of those wrote you $100 check. Let's say you make $1,000 per deal. Easy math, right? Each one of those guys wrote you $100 check, and then the 10th guy signed all of them, right? So it's like we get so caught up on the we went 0 for 3 on this series. We went 1 for 5 in the first quarter. We went, what I'm saying? Like we get so caught up in the small thing. It's not the full body of work. And I think again, it's another thing where I use analogies. We would all hear that story and agree to it, but whenever we're out there fighting for our life and trying to pay, our car notes and all this other stuff, then the pressure overcomes us and we lose that vision. That's really all this is, man. It's not that you're failing. It's just part of the damn deal. Like it's just how you get across from here to there. Is there going to be hills? Sometimes you're uphill, sometimes you're downhill. That's just the road, bro. Like just stay on the road. Don't quit on the upside part because you're going to get over to the top and it's going to be downhill, right? Because you're going to land that one deal that three more dominoes fall. I remember Barry Sanders said this. I'm sorry if I'm talking too much, brother.
No, you're good.
Uh,
You're good. You're good.
but Barry Sanders said this one time, and he asked him, said, "Barry, what do you see when you run?" And Barry said, "Well, first of all, I don't see the guy in front of me. He don't have a chance to tackle me. Like I'm looking at the guy behind me. And if you know yourself, I've been on NFL fields with NFL players, and to be able to think that way, that's not even from this planet, bro.
No,
Like
not at all.
that's not even from this planet." And then what I did is I took that. When I say I apply everything from sports back to sales, like literally, like everything. I know if I'm talking to you, I got your money, brother. That's a done deal. I don't even know why we talking. That's my money. You got it in your pocket. Just get it ready because I'm going to grab my ladder. I'll be back for my money. But here's the thing, bro. Like, it's not even about that. It's about how you're going to turn me on to your neighbor. You're going to turn me on
Hmm.
to your pastor. You're going to turn me on to your sister two towns away. You're going to talk to people at work about me. You can see on Facebook they're gonna ask for something and say, "Man, dude, you got to hit up this guy Ken, man. They call him the Roof Ninja. He's gonna take care of you, right?" So I'm not even worried about you. I'm already lining up who all you gonna give me, right? And so that's the next level that you get to because at that point, I don't care if you give me a no because that's one of the nine that I need to get to the 10th,
You know
right?
what? I could actually apply that thinking and probably I actually like the way you put that together, especially like on the one person. Is like, oh, because a lot of what I do is through referral marketing. Because like my first 10, and this is even what I taught my sales guys when I was sales management. Take care of your first 10. Like, yes, you're gonna make six figures. Yes, you're gonna have to keep knocking. Yes, you're gonna have, but your first 10, give them the white glove treatment because those are going to be the first 10 people that the first 10 jobs you do, and that's going to say the most about you. So if you can get referrals out of them, that's only going to spill more from there, from there, from there. Like I'm still spawning customers off my first 10 from 2017. And we didn't have so many hurricanes and hailstorms then, and they still like, hey, you need to meet so and so. I just ran into them and I happened to talk to you. And I spent pretty much a good 5 years not promoting myself in a way as far as roofing. So I made great money. I hit great heights, and I wasn't even talking myself up. So now I'm coming with a vengeance with this big man roof. It's like, hey, everybody gonna know that I do roofs. Everybody gonna know that I'm the guy that you need to get taken care of, and I have a special personality. And the one thing that's actually gonna make me different is I'm keeping it small batch. There's so many sales guys that try to get 50 to 70 clients, and then they're not answering phone calls back. Their standard of basically customer service goes down. But you know what? They have X, Y, and Z in the pipeline. They have what? What do you usually say? Oh yeah, I got 2 million in the pipeline. Yeah, but you suck. Your clients hate you. Your bills are on time. You're not tracking your materials. You have a lot of chargebacks. Okay, so what? You had a fictional number. Whereas it's like I can be small batch, Miss Johnson, I'm working specifically on a claim. I've been talking to this person, so on and so forth. You know who I am. That's why I'm doing big middle roof because like I really want small batch where I can give my best. And if I decide to grow from there, and if I'm decide to scale, then I'll take on more clients. But for the most part, keeping it small batch. Because like once I get to this number, I'm not taking on anybody else. And that's where a lot of contractors, at least in my opinion, a lot of contractors they just want to catch everybody and get so many doors and have and root so much that they want to be. It's like, all right, but where's the quality? If we all just took a step back, focus on quality, the standard would be set as far as how's the build supposed to go, how your crew wants to be.
Well, and there's one thing that I can find that I can say is there's a sweet spot of if you're the project manager trying to work the back end, like the company I'm at now, we have project managers that take over for you, right? So you don't
Hmm.
have to be on site. Now we still go out there and knock the neighborhood and kind of work the neighborhood during the build, right? But the reality is like they're handling it. You got to sign project management. They got to go grab some OSB or they got to go grab some more Ridge Cap because they ran out at the end of the day. Like there's somebody else to do that, right? But when I was project managing A to Z, the big thing I found was I could go out and sign. We had a small little sprinkle and hailstorm. It wasn't anything major, but I was 4 months in and I had signed 85 deals in 2 months. Okay.
Nice.
The problem with that is, dude, I couldn't get to everything. So things started slipping through the cracks. That's when I figured out that here's what's going to happen. I can't go get new money. Like I spent a month going to adjuster meetings, doing covering builds and doing all that stuff, doing signing contracts and doing the whole deal. Like I was going back because once you sign a deal, that's day one. But then you got to come back for an adjuster meeting. Then you got to go. You got to come back and pick up the first check. Then you got to come back and do. You know what I mean? Like you got all these other. So it's like 5 or 6 more times you got to come back to that address to
Hmm.
address the same money that you already signed, right? That's not new money. So what I found was there was a sweet spot that I could hit in this little range of how many I could handle so that I could still go out and go get new money. Because if not, I'm gonna have 85, but guess what? I'm gonna lose 20 of them because somebody's gonna come in here and outperform me and take money off my plate because I wasn't able to be intentional enough with my clients. So the quality came down, and then I lose jobs, which infuriated me because I'm so damn competitive. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna make X amount of dollars, but I could have made this, and like it's
Yep.
more money than I'd ever made in my life, but it was still pissing me off, right? Because I'm competitive. Not even about the money. It's just I didn't want nobody to take it. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like that girlfriend you had in high school. You didn't really care if you had her. You didn't want nobody else to have her. Like, dude, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just so it's kind of like one of them deals. Well, I filled out that there's a because if not, you're going to spike and you're going to get all these deals. And then what's going to happen is you're going to spend so much time running all these meetings and everything. You're not going to have no more new conversations. And then what's going to happen is you're going to drop off. So you're going to have a great month, a great 4 to 6 a week window, and then it's going to dip, and then it's going to come back up. So it's like, and plus I wasn't getting the referrals because I wasn't being able to be intentional.
Right.
I
That's
wasn't being
20
able
people.
to be Barry Sanders and overperform to the point to where I already got your money. Let me over deliver so much and create such a raving fan that you're giving me 2 or 3 other referrals.
Right. So for 85 contracts, you say you're gonna lose 20. That's 20 people that's gonna say something negative about you that didn't have a good experience, all because you got greedy up front. And I get it. Everybody wants to get the money. I know you want those contracts. I know they're easy there, and you have the skill. But if you really want that, basically that exposure, that scale where people can where basically it just floods in, you gotta have the good reputation. And so then you can start out slow. Like 1099 contractors, we really got to be businesses. Like it is, I'm 50-50 when it comes to as far as it always being the company's responsibility for like logistics and what the homeowner's going to experience. If you are a person who's going out signifying business, your name is on the line too. And it's a lot easier to control things. It's a lot easier to basically get your money when your name's on the line too, and they feel like you got a vested interest. And that comes with basically saying, hey, when you're working with me, you really are like nobody else. And that comes from the customer service. That's the only thing that's gonna make you different. We all use the same tar, we all use the same asphalt shingle, we all use the same starter, ridge cap, all that. So you can gloat about your warranties all day, but when things go wrong, can they count on you? And I tell my clients that it's like, listen, you're not hiring me because you like me. You're hiring me because I have a contingency plan for when things do go wrong. You don't want me looking shocked at like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. You want me to be like, I got this. I'll take care of this. Don't worry, this isn't an issue. You know what? I had a feeling this was going to happen. Don't worry. We'll go ahead and get this cleaned up.
One of the things I tell people, and it's very powerful, and I heard this. I don't remember which person I heard this from. It's what a book or a podcast or something, but like when you can attach, well, I think it's Grant Cardone, honestly, like, and Grant Cardone's over the top, like he's kind of way out there, but there's always good nuggets. I saw a post in one of our in the national roofing groups or whatever. Somebody said, Grant Cardone or Andy Elliott, and everybody was like bashing
Yeah.
both of them. I was like, yeah, that's cool, but man, you don't get to that level if you ain't good. So take what you take. It's like a buffet, man. Take what you take and leave what you leave, but there's something good there, right? So even though I wouldn't deliver it in the same manner, there's still some nuggets there, right? Um, but what Grant Cardone talked about was, and I forget which book it was. God, I can't remember. But anyway, he talked about bringing the third party close, where you bring in a story about a third party and tell that story because people like to associate with somebody out. It takes you off the hook. It's like,
Closers
well,
guy?
what we found is other people do this, or this other client I was working with did this. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's bringing this other thing. Um, and kind of in that same line, I kind of started doing this. So, Mr. Johnson, the reason I work for this company is because I know I don't have to apologize for things, mistakes that we make. It's construction; things are going to go wrong. But what I found is this company does the right thing and makes it right. So rest assured, I wouldn't be here today putting my name on this thing if we weren't going to do the right thing. So by making it personal, like, and just attaching the reason why I work here. Like, dude, I can't tell you how powerful that is. And I always,
Mm-hmm.
when I'm coaching everything, I always say, put yourself on the other side of the door. Like what would make them comfortable that they would hear that would make them like bring the RPMs down a little bit. You know what I'm saying? If I can deliver that message clearly that hey, the reason I work here is because we do things the right way, and I know I don't have to come back and apologize for things that we do wrong, right? So that's just a kind of a route that I take on it. And I think it's pretty powerful.
Speaking of Grant Cardone in books, that was actually another one that I read. That was probably like one of the first personal development books I got into was Sell or Be Sold. That one turned me into a monster. I was like, oh, okay, let's go. And I just love Grant's books just because he just got these bold closes you would never think to use. And
Yeah.
then you use one and it works. It's like, oh, like my favorite one by him was you knew it was expensive, go ahead and sign. So like when you're basically at the table and the homeowner's like, oh my God, that's expensive. You knew that before I got here. Go ahead and sign. Like, like that, when that actually worked one time, I was like, oh my God, let me hurry get up out of here.
But
Yeah, I mean, good closing.
comparing that to like sports, because we're both sports guys, bro. That's like Michael Jordan telling Dikembe or whoever he was talking to when he says he was going to shoot with his eyes closed.
Yep.
Like that's just calling your shot, bro. Like, of course it's expensive, man. That's why you're working with me, bro. Like, go ahead and sign right here. You know what I mean?
I
Like,
know. I
yeah,
know.
that's I love it, man. And like I said, I wouldn't necessarily deliver everything the way he does, but there's
Right.
nuggets, bro. Like there's little things, and that's part about personal development is you don't listen to things or digest books or podcasts or whatever you do to to be those people, right? You just take what you can take. Like you just, I remember there was a time in my life where I was a produce manager, and I was actually, and dude, I loved it because I was so competitive. The first guy I worked with that was my produce manager, he was extremely numbers oriented. He was like all the stems on the apples had to be facing the same direction. Like it was just like you couldn't just put it out there. It had to be like ready for a damn commercial. Okay. And it was just like I would go out there and like half-ass something. He was like, "Man, what is that? Like, why'd you even do that?" He would just tell me to go do something else, and he would redo it. And I was so competitive, it just like I had to match how he did it. You know what I'm saying? Even though I didn't see the difference, like, dude, we're gonna sell these out. They're gonna be gone by 2 o'clock. Like, why are we worried about? You know what I mean? Like, so but it was like it made me competitive in that manner. And then the next guy I worked with was like super conscientious about rotating all the fruit and doing everything. And his ordering was like freaking pristine, like the best orderer. He could project what he was going to sell and order perfect because you're ordering on Monday for a truck to come on Tuesday. It's got to serve you till Thursday. So you're like guessing the next 3 days worth of stuff. And so like I really got into like and I was competitive. Like I had to be as good as him. Like everybody I worked for was really good at a different part. And I was able to work for 3 or 4 guys that were like extremely good in different areas. So by the time I was like 25 years old, I was a regional produce manager and a produce trainer. So I had 38, 40-year-old guys coming to work for me to train them how to be a produce manager. And like you talking about being having attitude with somebody like they had attitude towards me, like like who do you think you are? Like, dude, I'm better than you. I
Right.
don't know what to say, but it was just I'm so competitive, bro. Like I just got to figure out how to do it or whatever. But I think sales, um, it's like the same way. Like the things that I hear, I just got turned on. God, Myron Golden,
Oh yeah. That's
dude,
my guy.
Myron Golden, bro.
That's my guy.
He's another damn level, bro. Like I just listened to one today. I'm gonna share it with you when we get off. I'm gonna share you the link. You might have seen it. It was about a month ago. It came out, but I just literally got turned on this dude about 3 weeks ago, and it's like I'm just it's hard for now. I'm falling behind on my book content because I'm listening to Myron because he got so much content out there, and I haven't been listening to him.
And
But
I
man,
mean,
he
and
is so freaking good, bro.
I go through that same wave of like, okay, I'll get onto somebody new and then I'll be listening, I'll be stuck on them. Like, I remember when I was going through my John C. Maxwell phase. Like, I just basically stopped reading. I think I was reading Tim S. Grover's book,
Relentless.
Unbreakable or Unbeatable. No, no, yeah, it was Relentless. I was reading Relentless and I just stumbled on John C. Maxwell like on audiobooks. And, they got the nice background music. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, So I got all stuck on that. But I think you just go through seasons. I mean, as long as it's helping you, as long as it's keeping you motivated and trying to work on yourself a little bit, it's like I can come back to it. I get caught up in that as like, all right, if I start something, I got to finish it. Whereas it's like now's not the time. Like it'll
Right.
hit different when it's supposed to.
Right. Well, let me ask you this, man. Like we talked about a lot of stuff. We covered a lot of stuff. You know, the name of the podcast, man, is Into the Storm, right? So what we like to do is, you know, the whole premise is like talk about storms of life, man. There's professional storms, there's personal storms. Sometimes they cross over. The reason that my group that I started is called the Bison Tribe is the bison turn when they see a storm coming, they run right through it. They don't try to go around it. They don't try to outrun it. They don't hunker down and ride it out. They just turn to go straight through it because they know that's the fastest way to get through it. So the name of this podcast is closely tied into the Bison Tribe, which is a personal development, leadership, accountability group that I've started. And part of every podcast, we want to make sure that we talk about people's storms. Like, what have you went through? Something that would break a lot of people, maybe partially broke you, but you was able to go through the storm and come out on the other side of it. So, if you could share, you know, something that you went through. I know we talked a little bit before, but if you could share that with everyone today, like right now.
From a personal side, I'd probably say the biggest challenge that I've ever dealt with was I was coming off my true freshman season in college. So like I got there, I thought I was going to redshirt. A guy went down and they said, "Hey Bryan, we're going to start you in rotation." Like I was one of the freshman DTs picked up, and I played. I had a great season. Like I was coming off like, oh, I was going to be All American and everything. And the next season I came back, I had a rough first game and then I actually lost my starting spot. And I was like, all right, I just got to get this back. I was ready to put it to work. Just as I was about to put it in the work, tore my Achilles. And it basically ended my sophomore year. So I was like, all right, I'm not getting my spot back. And that was the first time in my football career where I had been put on the sideline long enough to where it's like, all right, that's basically as long as I had gone without football in my entire career. Like, hey, I missed a game here and there, or I've been out for some weeks, but like a full year of just, all right, one, you're not walking, you're on a scooter, you still got to go to classes. It's still Minnesota, so your crutches are still going to slip on ice. And when I tell people about it, they say, man, I would have just quit at that time. And I'm like, I don't know why I didn't. All I knew is I wanted to come back. I was not about to give it up. I knew I did not want to go out like that. I knew I did not want to end football on the fact of like an injury took me out, or even that was going to be the end after coming off such a good season. So, kind of the storm for me was like basically staying mentally into the game, um, finding a new way to basically keep that passion for like I want to learn more about football, and that's probably the deepest that I've gotten into film was during that time because I wanted to be around. I was waking up at 6 a.m. still going to weightlifting sessions like five, well not 6 a.m. I was waking up at 4:30 to get to the 6 a.m. session. So I was waking up at 4:30, couldn't lift, but like I still wanted to be around the team. So the storm for me was just like, all right, when things don't go according to plan, how do you pivot or how do you adjust in order to basically stay towards your goal? And that's what it was for me. I came back, became an all conference player, ended up getting a trial with the Minnesota Vikings, and I had a hobble leg, if you would. So that's kind of I mean, I don't know if you want to expand on that. That's a personal storm that I went through.
So let me ask you this on that part. I mean, how do you feel that changed you for the positive? Like, I'm really big on like, anytime something bad goes on, like at work or whatever, I always try to identify it as a coaching moment. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you can make these mistakes in games and something went wrong, but what was the moment right there that we can coach so we don't repeat it? Now, obviously, you can't, you know, but you can't change an injury. An injury is an injury, but like as far as like what was the takeaway from that mentally and how you got through that that you can apply to other things in your life.
Takeaway is there's more than one way of getting better or staying focused on what it is that you want. So, from even from a sales standpoint, when you're going through a slump, that's the time you really want to dig into as far as techniques in order to freshen up your perspective on how you sell or basically put in that new method, like finding another way to get it done because the way you're doing it is just not working right now. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a way to expand you. Because I was put in that situation is I became better at reading defenses and like how I was telling you earlier is like how I basically destroy double teams. Because of that, that actually made me a better player when at the time it could have been viewed as like, oh well, this should be it and wrap it up. So like, how do you get better from that? Is just understand is like when something negative happens, however you perceive it, is just find a way to flip the perspective of like, okay, this is how I'm gonna make this work for me, and that
It's
served me immensely, immensely in everything I've done. Like one of like the professional seasons that I've been through is like I've been recently let go from a few companies, and it was just a matter of like, hey, things didn't work out. I wasn't doing what I need to do, and I had to look at myself in the mirror and say, okay, that was me. Like I'm not doing what I need to do. Whereas it's very easy, and you even see this some guys in the chat is it's now the company's fault. Even though you didn't go out and do what you said you were going to do, it's the company's fault. Instead of taking that accountability and just being like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to get better from this. And that's even why I love the big man on the roof thing is because like this is all development. This is me saying, hey, what I look like right now, 6 months from now, I'm not going to be the same person.
right. There was a chapter in a book, and I literally, it was a Grant Cardone book, and I made a copy of each page. It was a fairly short chapter, it was like 5 pages, but I recorded it. I mean, I'm sorry, I copied it and stapled it and brought it to a branch meeting and gave everybody in the meeting a copy. I said, "This is your new Bible. Like this is what you live by." And it was all about accountability. And Grant talks in there, and I don't remember, it might have been in Sellers to Be Sold, but I remember being chapter 10 because we literally use that as a tagline when somebody isn't owning their stuff. We say chapter 10, and it
Mm,
just snaps you back to that mindset. But Grant talks in there about just being accountable for everything in your life. Like no matter what, it's your fault. If you get T-boned, then man, you left the house 2 minutes too late. Like literally, like everything is on you. And he talked about. I remember, specifically, and it made sense. Like now, the T-bone thing, like you can't control that. I get, you know what I'm saying, like, but
right, right, right,
maybe
right.
that's extreme. But I can say that what he used in the book, it made sense because he said, okay, they had the fires going on and in California, and they lost power. So he was furious about losing power. He's like, man, I'm losing, and this has happened to me. We lost power for 3 days at one point because of an ice storm that knocked out all of our power, and it was a damn mess. And I lost. I just went to Sam's and dropped about $800. Put stuff in my freezer. I got a coffin freezer, and I already had stuff in there. I probably lost $1,400 worth of stuff in there, and so it infuriated me. Right. Well, same thing happened to him, and he was mad with the power companies. Like, man, why can't you get your stuff together? Like, boom, boom. And then he realized, man, this is on me. So he went and invested thousands of dollars in getting a generator system wired into his home. So then it happened again, and his power never went off. So as much as he wanted to blame them, he took ownership. He's like, what could I have done to make sure this didn't happen instead of blaming the power company? And that mindset of what could I do, those coaching moments, right? That I always talk about, like those coaching moments, like what is it that I can do so that this doesn't happen again, right? And so that was just a very powerful book to me, and I really like our whole like we've got some new people that's come in. I probably need to get them a copy of it and share it with them because we're always saying chapter 10 to each other just as an accountability thing, just to remind you that if it's not your fault, it's still your fault.
Right,
So
right. I I'm
And
starting to agree with that because it is like since I've been on a journey of trying to take more accountability, it's actually just been more freeing. Because then it's like I get to take my piece. This is what I'm going to work on. Feel how you want to feel about it. Because I was always nervous from the fact of like if you admit the fault, then you'll be exposed, and then you just basically go into the spiral of hell of never being accepted, never being selected, never being the person. Whereas now it's like the accountability is like, okay, you know what? They're willing to stand in for the hard times, and you get a different look that way. So it's been a journey taking the accountability because you got to go back through. If you're really doing a personal development, it's really hard to even look at some situations that where you thought you were the victim for the longest and say, you know what? That was on me,
right,
and that's hard. That's hard to do, but it's so free. It's so freeing. It's so it just allows me to move on. And that's just what even this year has been about. That's what the big man on the roof brain has been able to give me is just like, you know what? I'm not perfect, but I'm learning on the fly and I hope that you rock with me. That's what I want anybody to get from this brand is
heck yeah, man. Um, have you ever heard of the term rage? REYG.
no, I've not heard of that.
Rage is, and we do it all the time, but it's reverse engineer your goals.
Mm,
So if you take, let's just, for instance, I do this with new recruits that come in. I actually created a video showing it on a whiteboard and talked them through this to how it applies. But let's say let's say you want to make $100,000 a year, right? Well, we're going to give a base. We're going to say your average roof is going to be this for the last year. This is the average commission that you get, and then we say, okay, you want to make $120,000. We're going to give you this base or whatever. So that means this much you got to do in commission. This reverse engineer how many roofs that turns into, and we know based on close percentages how many doors you knock, how many that turns into, how many inspections you get, how many inspections that you average on average find damage, and then on damage, how many of those are insurable damage. On those, how many do you get them to close them far enough to get them to file the claim? From there, what percentage of those get approved, which is going way down because the insurance game's changing tremendously. They decline everything. But and then so how many? So you get down to a number, right? And you get to that number and say, okay, well, you got to knock on 2,765 doors a year, figuring all the at each break where it's going to the numbers and the percentages are going to be applied to what you're going to lose from that door knock. But so then you just reverse engineer the whole thing. You can do the same thing with your business, like with if you're a business owner, if you're whatever it is, you can reverse engineer those things. Um, so keeping that in mind, just you like I said, you've done it before. You just didn't know what it was called, right?
right,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm doing this much per roof. I'm doing this right. As a business owner, you do the same thing, right? It's the same. It's called raging your goals. Um, and we're going to pivot a little bit. One of my favorite podcasts is The Pivot. I don't know if you watch those guys, but they're freaking
Oh yeah,
phenomenal.
yeah, yeah.
Man, I love the Pivot. I don't miss an episode of The Pivot. Um, but and I'm again, we're changing gears here. We're going into the storm a little bit, but if you, it may seem a little dark, but it's going to give you perspective. If you passed away today, would your mom, your wife, your son be able to stand up in front of everyone and give a 10 to 15-minute eulogy about you and say everything about you that you would want them to say?
Mm, I'm almost there. I'd say they'd say probably 40%, and I'm working on the other 60.
Now, here's my challenge to you. Brian, for where you are in life, I feel like you are a very impactful, influential, and inspiring young man. What I would do is write down that eulogy that you would want them to say about you from the perspective of one of them. Pick one. Write that eulogy out. And it could be your son as an 18-year-old. Okay? Write that out and then reverse engineer the action steps that you need to do on a daily basis to reach and become that person.
Damn.
And that, my friend, is going into the storm because take out finances. That's one of your five footprints. That's one. There's faith, there's family, there's fulfillment, there's fitness. Right? Finance is one. When I have conversations with a lot of people that are in these mastermind groups that are business owners, they spend 90% of their time in conversations about the one of the five. The reality is that in those final moments, and if you could look down on that casket
Mhm.
as your family is speaking about you, this will be the last one that you think about.
Well, damn, Ken. You had to make me speechless.
Man, the point of this, brother, is to make true impact. And here's what I know. If you, the man that you are, the influence that you have, if you can take that concept and apply it and do the exercise, and I'm not taking credit for this. This came from Hunter Ballou and Revolt. I've been a part of this and I've watched this play out countless times. We do that with the Bison Tribe, right? It's one of the exercises we do. We've got several lined up. Some of them we've not done yet, right? But I know the man that you will become and the rate that you will become that man, the impact you're going to have on your son, on your wife, on your parents while they're still here above ground, brother, you are blessed. They want to see that man come to life. Not taken away from where you're at, but you just, in your own words, said that you're 40% of that full potential. So my challenge to you, brother, as we wrap this thing up, man, is to be intentional the same way that you are about speaking on your brand, speaking on your experiences, everything else, speaking on your journey with your faith, all the different things that we spoke about tonight. Do not miss the fact that at the end, when you look back on this 20 years from now, or your son watches this 20 years from now, or maybe for either one of us, it's the last, it's something that's living beyond us after we're not here anymore. But what I would challenge you to do is to reverse engineer that, take those action steps, and become that person as fast as you can because we're not promised tomorrow, bro. You know that.
That I agree. That I agree with. I only have a small window to be here, and then an even smaller window where I'll be remembered. And after that, I got to make sure I'm doing everything and anything that I want while I still have a chance. Thank God for the breath.
So, in closing, let me ask you this, man. Give me a motto, a rally cry, or favorite quote or something that you would put a kind of exclamation mark on this podcast?
Heavy is the head for he who wears a crown. That is that won't get me to run through a wall. I want to put tears behind because we all want the position, but it comes with a lot of choices. It comes with a lot of sacrifice, and you never know which one is right. All you have, like how you mentioned Ben earlier, all you have is a process.
That's right. Good stuff, man. Bryan, I've really appreciated our conversation, man. I've enjoyed it. Um,
I appreciate it as well. One more thing, let's do the mailbox money.
oh yeah, man, my bad, dude. I went all around and
Oh,
we
I
should have
figured
brought
you.
it earlier. So talk to me about that, man. You got this great foundation going, and let's talk about that.
Yeah, so Mailbox Money is started by Joe Farrar and his wife Minerva Farrar. They're basically Popkins, as I say, basically where I'm at. And the one thing I love about it when Joe first brought this to me is basically what they call micro philanthropy. So for like $11, what they do is they basically take the donations and they do what's called golden envelopes and give out random acts of kindness. Like what really got me, like one of the cool ideas was is they got a bunch of donations and they called up to Chuck E. Cheese and said, "Hey, how many birthdays y'all having today?" And said we're having two. So they took the kids of the organization and they all went to Target and bought toys for the birthday party and then just showed up randomly and started singing and basically gave the kids like it wasn't like they were at risk, it's just random acts of kindness and giving those kids like probably a birthday they didn't remember. Like some strangers came in and gave me a gift in a golden envelope. And then one of the causes that's going on right now that's kind of near and dear to my heart. Thank Joe for basically setting this up. He told me the story. Her name is Destiana. She's 23 years old. She had a twin sister. Both of them were pregnant at the time. One of the twin sisters actually passed from having a rare cancer while pregnant. She actually decided not to get radiation because she didn't want to have the baby. So, or she didn't want to hurt the baby. So she ended up passing. And now the sister is taking on six kids. And as a manager at McDonald's, is basically just looking for any and all types of help. So, Ken, if you want to flash the link up there where you can go as far as global globalmailboxmoney.org and basically donate there. You can ask about Destiana. She can appreciate any and all help that you can give. It doesn't have to be a lot. I'm I guess I'm gonna get on the point of like from a man standpoint, as far as taking care of a tribe, being able to provide, being in a position to help others. I went ahead and put in my funds with that's well above. You don't have to match me, but any and everything matches. We got to look out for people, and this is something that's near and dear to Big Man on the Roof's heart. And yeah, that's pretty much the whole thing. So please head over to the website, donate, help out, bless somebody.
Man, I know we show stuff and we talk about these stories, and sometimes because, I mean, here Bryan is, he's in Orlando. I'm in Greenville. I'm going to be doing pods with people from all over the country as well as local people here. But guys, we are all part of humanity, man. Like we have the power to impact people. And even though like money, people get funny about money, but the reality is like it's literally can change people's life. Like something that is relatively minor to you, it's a couple trips to Starbucks. It's a couple, we talk about in our finance footprint, when we do what's called a trek, where we go in and try to improve in those areas. If finance is one of the areas you need help in, then one of the things is like, okay, just take your lunch every day for the
Hmm.
next 28 days. Like, how much money do you save if you took your lunch every day for 28 days? Like, you got leftovers from last night, throw it in the thing, throw it in the cooler, microwave it, eat it cold, whatever you do. But like, how much money would you save? 10, $15 a day? Like, times that time 28 days. Like, that's a lot of money. I mean, for something like this, is it not worth, you know what I mean? Like, just making a small sacrifice to try to help someone that's in need like that. I mean, and I don't know how many people are going to have watched this podcast. I mean, who knows? Um, but regardless, if it's one person and they were to say, okay, for the next month, just for this cause, I'm going to do this. Like it's a trade off. We're not asking you to come up with extra money. It's money you're already spending, right? So that's kind of how I try to look at things. Like, okay, I'm going to make this sacrifice for this cause, and it's not new money out of my pocket. It's actually money I'm already spending. I don't need to spend. Like it's just a trade, right? For one
Right.
thing.
And
For
it,
another. So,
and then the biggest thing about it is micro philanthropy. So like the idea is not so much of like how you even say the 28 days, like how much money you would put towards this. It's just as simple as, hey, you put one of those meals towards it. I mean, I break it down as simple as it's like, all right, I've been blessed with a point that I am not going to miss a meal today. I know where my next meal is coming from. There's people that's in situations where they don't know where their next meal is coming from. And if I'm going to go to the Starbucks, I'm gonna go to McDonald's, whatever the case may be, and it's not to guilt you, it's just more or less of like, hey, just understand it's like, all right, for one meal you could help somebody else out. You're not gonna die, you're not gonna perish, but like giving up that one meal so that somebody can be in a better position is like is worth it. Like you're going to feel good about it. That's going to do so much good thing. Like people need those random acts of kindness, and then all it takes is like people understand how much grace they actually have. Of like, you know what, you woke up today. You can see out of both eyes. You can hear out of both ears. You can talk with your lips. You can move both legs. I mean, if you run up the list far enough, like $10 should be nothing.
right, man, that's great, man. Hopefully, somebody will reach out and help you out. That's phenomenal story, very touching. And I love where your heart's at, brother. Like, man, the reality is like that's the people that I like to surround myself with is people like yourself. I hate that you're all the way in Orlando, or we'd hang out. I'd like to get know you more, your family, and all that stuff. But man, I've really enjoyed this podcast. Hopefully, we can get back together and maybe do one in the future. Um,
Absolutely. We definitely got to run it back in the future and see where the growth is. And I love the podcast in the storm and then even to the tribe. I I'm glad that I'm doing this because that's where I'm at in a point in my life. Like I'm trying to find my tribe, people that think like me. And I'm at the point where it's like if I'm vocal about it, I should attract that. I don't want no more fakes around me. I don't want anybody to act, nobody to say things to me. You got to act this way the entire time so that I can grow, so I can help you grow, so that we can both feed in each other. So, yeah, I'm excited for this journey I'm about to be on. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the platform, man. Anything I can do for you, just let me know, my guy.
Man, again, I've appreciated, man. I appreciate your kind words. Really glad we ran into each other at RoofCon, and I'm looking forward to getting with you in the future, brother.
Same here, man. Appreciate it again.
You guys have a great night, guys. We appreciate you logging in and watching us here on YouTube. We are going to have our own YouTube channel soon. We're actually working on our website, trying to close a couple of loops on that. And you can probably tell from my production and shifting between cameras, I'm not the most technology guy out there, but we're working on that. And we're going to get all these uh, different episodes loaded up onto the into the storm podcast website. So, guys, appreciate your your support. Please like and share, and we'll talk to you next time. All right, thank you.
Well, let me get my tags in there. Let me let the people know where to find me. So, Big Man on the Roof is my Facebook page. You can put that in and join the group as well. My Instagram handle is Big Man dot on the roof. And then finally, what's the last one? Oh, my website. So my website is props.me/bkeys. That's props with two P's. So PROPPS.me/bkeys. You can get instant roof quote from there. You can find out more about the company. And most of all, get your inspection with your big man scan. It's Big Man on the Roof.
I love it, brother. Hey, guys, I'm going to take all those and put those in the description on the YouTube whenever I upload this. So you'll be able to just click on it and go right to everything that he just mentioned. Again, we appreciate your time and your support. All right, thank you.
All right, take care.